It's called reverse transcriptase, is an enzyme that takes the RNA, the transcribed information, back into the DNA, and it basically plugs its own code into it. So now it's coding for something that you don't know what it's leading to. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let me just show you this right here. This is gonna blow your mind, brother. These are blood clots we have never seen in human history. These are like that long and it's growing inside of you. And this is why if you've been mRNA spike protein vaccinated, go get EBU therapy, which is extracorporeal blood oxygenation ozonation. So you get hooked on both arms. Your blood is coming out, it's going through a filter, it's catching microplastics, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and it's going through a UV light, like it's like a micro mini sun that has all the spectrum of light. You're exposing your blood to this sun, you're charging up the blood. When it comes out, it's like a dark red color, like wine color, and when it comes, it's like a Ferrari red, and it's basically oxygenated ozone, and it's almost like hydrogen peroxide. It just eats away any garbage in your blood. So we don't know if you have this stuff growing inside of you. And if you do, you're catching it and you're getting it out of your body. And this is how people can be running and they drop.
All right.
Guys, welcome back.
All right.
Stage 2.
Peptides part 2. This time, we're going to talk about peptides.
Yeah, this time we'll actually talk about
we
peptides.
can't get away without talking peptides today. You guys will get what you asked for. Okay. In fact, we're actually going to start a very interesting way.
Okay.
So we're going to pull up here some intranasal C-Max.
Oh, jeez.
Blend it with C-Lanks, and we can talk about intranasal versus eventually injectable, why nasal is better. Here's a clean tip for you.
What are C-Max and C-Lank?
We're going to get into it, but C-Max and C-Lank are neuro-regulatory peptides that regulate neuroplasticity, BDNF production, and just, overall cognition and executive decision is what it improves.
So these are nootropics.
Yeah, these are nootropics. Right. So each spray here has 80 micrograms. All studies on C-Max and C-Lank were mostly done in Eastern Europe, specifically Russia, on nasal sprays. They call it nose to brain, right? Because it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. Usually you need to cross the blood-brain barrier for it to take effect. Right. But it does it indirectly through olfactory pathways. And there's another name for it, but it indirectly bypasses it to get in and cause the neurological effects, right?
So this one you would not take in injectable form? You always do intranasal?
A lot of people think that injections are better, but they're not, because there's no solid human evidence showing that injectable is better. In fact, a lot of it gets degraded when you inject it because it's systemic exposure.
I see.
So since it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, you're not getting a lot of effect. This is going right to the nasal cavity, olfactory system. There's another system, I forgot what the name is, but it indirectly takes effect into the brain.
Okay. So we're going to feel smarter immediately after doing this?
So so you know how I'm super hyper and you're really chill. So this helps you calibrate to sort of come back to homeostasis, right? If you're kind of like tired and drowsy and just your attention is not there, it will bring you back up.
It's like an adaptogen.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you a funny story about C-Max when I first tried it. So Miguel showed me the research or whatever, and it said it induces exuberant synaptogenesis, and I was like, those are fun words.
What's the second one?
Exuberant synaptogenesis.
Oh, synaptogenesis. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's more synapses.
Yeah.
The more synapses, the more electricity in the brain.
And it's almost like the dendrites connect, and they say intelligence is being able to connect different things that are unrelated. Yeah. So it's funny because I did 2 hits of this thing, right? And I was just going about my day, right? Yeah. I did 2 hits, and I just took a break to get on a new skateboard that we had bought, and it was like one of those, like it mimicked snowboarding. And dude, I get on the skateboard and I'm going and just regular ride, and all of a sudden, man, it's like I felt
flow state.
Like complete flow state, and connected to the board in ways that I was feeling my toes and ways that I was connecting with the movement like I never connected before. So it's almost like I learned how to ride at a deeper level just on that one ride, and that's how I knew it worked. I was like, holy crap, this is really good.
Wow.
Sounds
like the Limitless thing.
Yeah, so
a little bit, yeah.
C-Link is more of an anxiolytic neuro-regulatory peptide. It stimulates the GABA receptors, so it kind of calms you down. So for me, C-Link is really good. It just calms you down and helps you focus. It also has cognitive effects as well. But C-Max is more on the BDNF production, neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, synaptogenesis, right? Then we'll get into other peptides that clean out the axons and just cause more firing in the brain per se. Right? So anyways, the point is defensible protocols, and we'll get into what even defensible protocols are, but 300 mics is the lower end. There's protocols that go even up to 4,000 mics, but there's a cap to most peptides, like more doesn't mean better.
Sure.
So this has 80 micrograms per hit. We're going to hit each nostril.
We need a new term other than hit.
Illicit. All right. I don't know what. Okay. We're going to take 2 doses, 80 micrograms each. So
and what's our disclaimer here? Is like, this is not medical advice.
This is not medical advice, and we're not suggesting you do any of this. And we're just doing it we'll possibly do a 9-hour podcast. No problem. Just we'll cruise through it, right? So you might just have to take a break and do this in segments. Anyway, so the point is you can go defensible doses where you could really feel the effects is more in the 900 to like 1100 micrograms.
Okay.
So we'll also get into like growth hormone peptides. You can pulse them many times a day. Yeah. With this, once you get like a high dose, the downstream is, so the half-life on this, depending on C-Max, it seems like it's between 5 to 15 minutes, but the downstream effects can take 10 to 15 hours. Like they can last to 10, 15 hours. But since we're doing such a little dose, we're just gonna, for fun, every hour I'm gonna put an alarm clock. We're gonna, as long as we go, we're gonna hit it hourly. And it just has a sustained effect because it's a lower dose. So if we end up doing 2 hits each in 3 hours, we're going to hit, what is that, 160 times 3, like 400 and something mics. All right.
So I did the one that on the skateboard was a 750, just one shot.
Okay. You want to snort it. Okay. You don't want to go. You want to.
Yeah, you want to get it in there.
The harder it goes to your olfactory system, the more it's going to hit.
Okay.
There you go. Put in the tip. But first spray, just do it to the side because you're not gonna get, because there's nothing in there. So just spray it on the side until you get something.
To put it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And until it comes out.
There you go.
Yeah. No, do it again. Doesn't matter if we waste one. This is for.
There you go.
For What Is Money show. There we go. Now you're ready.
So this is both of them.
Both of them united.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what he was talking about, the homeostasis. It kind of like it modulates.
Okay.
One is firing you up, the other one's
cooling
you down. So whether you're hyper or low, you're like gonna find a medium point. You can't get away.
I feel like no matter which way I do this is gonna end up like a really ugly meme on the internet.
It's like a calm.
I'll start with 1.
No. Start with 2. It's a low dose. Usually
you start with 1.
So what he did, listen, the first time he did it, that spray had 750 mics per spray. This only has 80 mics. It's very low. It's a very small dose. I promise you're gonna be fine.
2 shots is small dose.
You're good.
Here we go.
There you go.
Boom. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. That's your tip.
Does it pull straight on?
Yeah, just pull it. Whatever. Just pull out that tip. Just pull out the tip. That's your tip.
We'll do a
rip it off.
A sniff pass.
There you go. Next time, just jolt it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I don't want to break the thing.
Pass it. I got little alcohol swabs if you guys need after. Ooh, I already feel that. Took 2 hits in the morning.
So
all right,
I'm trying to think. I've only done dihexa, but that's not nootropic really. That's not clean.
It can work, but anything that's working in the brain, it's basically a nootropic.
Okay.
In fact, actually,
that one's more of a cleanup thing, though, right?
Yeah. It gives you a lot of mental clarity. So before getting on stage, Carlos and I'll drop one before getting on stage. It gives you a lot of mental clarity. In fact, I got one right here.
So the cool thing
that's
too, man.
Dihexa.
That's dihexa. For the C-Max and the C-Link, what I found too, it works, and this is anecdotal, but for me as an experience, it works for me on the articulation process. Like I'm able to really articulate my thoughts.
Oh, interesting.
Out, right? Yeah. Because sometimes we can't articulate our thoughts, right? So for me, it kind of like it helps me really articulate my thinking.
I see.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's really cool.
No, and for sports, man, if you're doing like skiing or something that's, fast paced, you feel you slow down in time. Like you're in the flow state.
Right.
Yeah. Because you got to think about like when you like, for example, if I'm skiing, for example, like I'm already sort of there, flow state, you're all there. When you're inside of a barrel, you're all there. Right. So that's already, firing off BDNF. And so when you do this, the signal gets really clear.
Gotcha.
Right? Really, really clear.
I've heard that one a few times now. BDNF. Can we tell us what that is?
It's brain-derived neurotrophic factors.
Okay.
Right. So it actually happens. That's one of the values of fasting. And we talked about.
Oh
this.
yeah, I feel that for sure.
Yeah. So
the cognitive boost of fasting.
Think of a lion right before it's hunting. Like when it's about to catch its prey, how it pauses. That's moment when it's laser focused. Right. Its BDNF protein is just firing.
And it's because I feel like that's the testosterone feeling too.
Well, that's fueling it, obviously.
It does.
But the fast, this is why every major religious book talks about this.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about the enlightened state. So there comes a point in a fast where you get an injection of BDNF into your brain. That's that enlightened state, that focus, right? But it's also been measured in Marines. Yeah. Marines have been able to sustain warlike conditions for days fasted because it just, you're getting an injection of fat into your brain. Yeah. And so it just sharpens you. So with Cmax, you're just kind of like, and we'll talk about like how peptides are signals, right? So what happens is you're enhancing the signal, right? You're enhancing the signal with a Cmax and LANC. And then obviously you pair it with dihexa, you're cleaning out the brain. And so we'll get into that because there's just
systems. So many different ways to do it. Depending on what's going on in your brain. If you have a TBI, there's a different strategy for that, right? Sure. If you're just looking for performance, it's just different how you approach it.
So that's maybe a good place then, because we talked last time about defining a peptide, but what we were saying offline is that it is this signaling messaging molecule mechanism.
Yeah.
And that's, money is one of these things too. Language is one of these things. So we go into the importance of signaling systems. It seems like how all of reality and biology actually works. So is a peptide then augmenting the electrical signaling of the brain and the body? Is that what's going on?
Well, let me just for the sake of the viewer, so we can organize it, let's just kind of go in order. So first, let's just say this. So after doing this for 10 years with thousands of patients, we started to ask the question, like, how come some people are successful in peptides and how come not? And when people were not successful is when we were stacking haphazardly, we were signaling with no end, no off ramp. It was just constant. And so we started to really see this pattern, right? Where it was like, peptides are signals. Signals need a pathway and those have to be timed, right? Because when you send the signal, the body also needs to be ready for it, right? It's kind of like we talk about insulin resistance, but like, someone asking for a growth hormone peptide, for example, that is pre-diabetic and inflamed, the body's not ready for that signal.
No, what happens is basically you have a lot of diabetics is just a lot of oxidative stress. So you got a lot of inflammation. You got hepatic inflammation, meaning your liver is not working as well. And your liver is what puts out IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. So if your liver is not properly functioning and you're trying to grow, and on top of it, your mitochondria are dysfunctional. Whenever there's inflammation, your mitochondria get inflamed. Right. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm sure you've eaten a bowl of pasta or just something heavy that you're like, oh, wait, hold on. Just let me go lay down for like 10 minutes. That's your mitochondria getting so inflamed that it's like a gridlock. It locks up and you can't generate energy. So your body needs to kind of, rest. That's why the walking is so good, to help the body, manually stabilize glucose without using insulin, without using your pancreas and your liver to pump, all these substances to help you stabilize. You mechanically do it by walking. Stabilize.
And so sending a signal through that pathway at that time, it just doesn't, your body's like, no thanks. It resists and it can block it, right? Because it has to adapt.
That was a rough metaphor. Is like if someone doesn't speak English, right? You can compose a very meaningful sentence, but if they don't speak English,
correct. Or I'll give you perfect. And I'll give you another analogy. It's like being a coach and yelling at someone who's overweight to run faster when they just can't. The yelling is not going to make him run faster, right?
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to the signal, the pathway, and the timing. And then, you dig deeper because obviously we wanted to do it with research and we wanted to see studies. And so that's where it became really complicated, right? Because, and we talked a little bit off camera, like there aren't many, like when you really dig down to it, there aren't even any really reliable nutritional studies, because of the complexity of how these things need to get performed. Peptides are even less, right? And so when you look at the greats that do this, guys like Dr. William Sees, who we've trained under, and some of the other greats,
Dr. Mark Gordon, Dr. John.
They don't there aren't a lot of studies, And then when you talk about like the test subjects, like you get an FDA approved peptide like tesamorelin, Grifta, right? Well, they were looking at, people with HIV that had visceral fat, right? But they've never really tested guys that are doing, for example, tirzepatide on testosterone with the supplements, guys like you that are doing it for optimization. We don't have those test subjects.
Well, they're not even looking at genetics. Yeah. They're not looking at their health, not to mention environmental toxins and even EMF. All these things are affecting us, right? And the reason why there's not enough studies, 3-letter agencies. There's not a lot of money to make, especially big pharma, in nutrition and peptides, because they're helping recalibrate and stabilize the system. And anything that they can patent or control, it's not of big interest, right? So when we talk about studies, even gold standard studies, like randomized, clinical, double-blind placebo studies, peer-reviewed, they're not done on healthy individuals. So once you step into prescribing these substances in people like us, the variable changes
dramatically.
We're insulin sensitive. We have very low inflammation. We work out every day. We're aligned with our circadian rhythm. All these other metrics that really fine tune the system. So how are those people responding? So the fact that we know that, it means every doctor, everybody talking about peptides, it's anecdotal. Right.
It's what he said.
For us is more on the professional medical anecdotal analysis of whatever data we have. Right. But the moment we step outside of the avatar, which is sick, inflamed, and basically diseased, then what are we talking about here?
Yeah, you're kind of like cavaliering this. You're stepping into unmarked territory, which is cool and exciting, right? Because look, the perfect example to this, to just kind of close this point out, is how many well-meaning, like famous doctors are out there talking against GOPs because people are losing muscle. And that is true if you do it incorrectly. But a guy like you, are you losing muscle on tirzepatide? Am I losing muscle on tirzepatide? Absolutely not. I've had guys win fitness contests using tirzepatide, and they look shredded, right?
And in fact, we'll get into the data now. There's data that we went, one of the best cardiologists that we believe in the world, because he's using AI technology that can read better than any human eye, has shown that using GLP-1s along with statin, low-dose statin, PCSK9 inhibitor, you can actually reduce the plaque that's building in your heart. That's the test that we're trying to do. So we'll get into that later, but So
to your question that you asked, what was the original question? You asked about the signals, right? So we started to get into this, okay, how do we create a framework? And based on everything that we talked about, the lack of evidence, the lack of studies, and all this stuff, it's like, look, for the listener, this is not a maxim, right? But it is a manifesto in terms of this is what we saw in clinical practice where people got the best results,
right? When
we respected biology, when we respected pathways, and when we respected timing, the pulsing, right? There's there's wake and sleep cycles, hormones pulse, all the stuff. So, going to what you're talking about, this is how biology works, systems and signals. Yeah. That's when we found that this worked the best.
So what he means with that is, if peptides are biological signalers, okay, then what are the most powerful pathways that signal everything else, right? So we found that it's mTOR and IGF-1 axis signaling, sirtuin, AMPK pathway, which also regulates insulin sensitivity and many other things and how your body uses energy. Sirtuins / NAD+, because sirtuins are fueled through NAD, and sirtuins repair DNA, reduce inflammation. And then you have FOXO4, which is stress resilience and helping your body not break down. And then NRF2, which is pathway for detox and reducing inflammation. So there's supplements that they sell this NRF2, right? So what you're trying to do is stimulate and signal that pathway to detox. So once you understand how, so for example, you can't be, like, I just love using Formula One because I saw a video that just made a lot of sense. You can't be performing and pit stopping at the same time. Right. You can't be activating mTOR and AMPK. You can have both, but very little of one. Is like a seesaw. If I press, the accelerator on mTOR and I'm in full growth mode, then there is no detox, repairing, and pit stopping. Yeah.
And I'll provide a contrast for people. So think of mTOR like ultimate performance. Right? Okay. Think the extreme of performance from a physical standpoint, bodybuilding. Yeah. That's all mTOR.
You're talking about growth.
And anabolism and bam, 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 and feasting periods. Feasting periods. So it's all the growth pathways of the body, right? Now, you do that too long, what happens?
You do anything too long.
Yeah, you do any of these too long on one side, you're gonna suffer consequence on the other side, and you need the other side, right? Just like Miguel said, like no Formula One race was ever won without pit stops, right? So you have to create
but you can't pit stop the whole time. You can't drive the whole time.
So that's what I was going to say.
You got to zig and
zag. mTOR all the way, bodybuilding. What happens to bodybuilders? They lose longevity.
And they die when?
Right.
They die early. Right? Because you're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Right?
Twice as fast.
Yeah.
You look great, but you're burning both ends of the candles twice as fast.
And you create a lot of oxidative stress, damage, all kinds of,
You can't get rid of cellular debris when you're building that much. Right. There's no time to clean up. There's just time to build.
Yeah, it's too overwhelming, and so that you don't have enough time to detox, right? So, but what happens if you go the opposite way, which is kind of like the guys that focus on longevity? I don't want to say names, but guys like David Sinclair, Dave Asprey. I mean, you get fragility on the other side. You don't get performance. Right. Like, I don't know that those guys can run a marathon, right? Or do something like really excessive physically. So
they're trying to live to 180,
So you're dropping testosterone, you're dropping IGF-1.
Anything that's growth. Yeah. You're trying to sort of keep it in a place, like for example, Dr. Walter Longo, who was one of the most world-renowned gerontologists studying aging, showed that having an IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is ultimately your free growth hormone, 142 is what he found. Is you don't want to go any higher. So when we're talking about building muscle, we like to see it 300 or 350. There's doctors that want to go all the way to 500. Bodybuilders can go even higher, right? So you want to keep it low if you're trying to live a long time, but in the exchange is flabby muscles. You're just
no performance.
So is it extreme to say you should spend like half the year as in this mode of very low heart rate, veganism, rest, and the other half of the year is like pushing it?
We're gonna get into the seasons. We're definitely gonna get into seasons, but let's go. So biological signalers, peptides, we're using. So okay, what are we using to signal? Okay, let's look at the most important pathway. There's many more, but anybody who's in the industry and knows science, these are the top 5. Right. And you can debate if there's one more or two, but these are the ones that we have found are the most powerful.
These are things like gravity, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much you argue it on the way down. If you don't have a parachute, the outcome's the same.
These are the ones that are most upstream from all the others.
Exactly.
Everything else depends on them and not the reverse.
And to your question, just to kind of give the a little bit of a spoiler alert, like this is why we talk about like doing these 3-day fasts every quarter, because we're and for guys it's tough because like we love performance, we love muscle, and we like to feel strong, and it's just part of our identity.
Got to pit stop.
And you got to pit stop. If you want to keep doing that for a long time and you want to look like that into your 50s and 60s, you have to pit stop. And by the way, you pit stop. And it's only a short time. 3 days, you shut down mTOR, you raise AMPK, you clean the body. And I mean,
so
you showed me this guy showed me his abs yesterday. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Well, I just did a 3-day fast.
That's what I'm saying.
Thanks to you guys.
And you lost no muscle.
You don't lose muscle. The study showed the 72-hour fast.
No.
As long as you're not exercising, you can walk as much as you want. Stay under zone, like basically zone 0. Like just
I drank the amino acids. That probably helps.
But you see, when you take the amino acids, you're activating mTOR. Anything that is amino acids stimulate growth.
Wasn't doing a pure pit stop then.
Like you're losing body fat. You're definitely in ketosis, but you're not going into an autophagy state, and that autophagy leads to mitophagy and all these other cellular pathways that are really cleaning out the cellular debris.
So you clean out like what they call senescent cells, right? So these are the cancerous cells that we want to clear out of our body.
Cytokines, there's a lot more things.
Now, look, for you, for the purpose that you wanted it, like it worked for you.
Yeah, I was just trying to like get that last lean out, really. But I hear you. I should do 3-day fast once a quarter with just water and salt.
Just water.
That's what we
do.
do.
But you do no testosterone. You do nothing that creates growth. So no HIIT workouts, no lifting weights, no obviously no growth hormone peptides, no amino acids because they spike mTOR slightly. So you want to shut it down.
So, for example, I inject testosterone 3 times a week. I'll finish injecting Friday and I'll start Monday. I'll give it at least 2-3 days to come down because remember, we're pulsing small to stay elevated. You can wait longer and get into more autophagy, but then I feel like crap, right? So I just started on Monday, 3 days. The science is very clear. As long as you're not exercising, doing interval training or anything like that, or lifting weights, you're not going to lose muscle.
Got it.
And one last piece.
You do shrink a little because you do eliminate a lot of water. But that's why electrolytes are important in the process. So you can balance creatine out the water. You can't. Well, I don't know. Creatine could activate indirectly pathways of mTOR. It could.
So, but one thing that's important for the listener to hear is, and you and I talked about this last night, like the boost of energy that we got the second day, where I was like with so much abundant energy, and it was 8 o'clock at night. My wife was doing it with me. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm crazy with energy," and we're on a 48-day fast. 48-hour fast, right? So this is where that BDNF, bam, and you get this.
No, you're cleaning all the neurotoxicity buildup, just like how we go to the bathroom to eliminate waste. Yeah, our neurons produce waste, neurotoxins, right? And so the glymphatic fluid from your spinal cord gets in. Your brain cells shrink about 40%, so that fluid can go in there and actually wash out all the cellular debris, and that's why you get that focus.
Got it.
And that's also for guys like us. Like if you tell a guy that's diabetic or I don't know pre-diabetic to go on a 3-day fast, he's gonna go through freaking hell.
Oh sure.
But because we're fat adaptive, right? It's easier for us. And now that we have tirzepatide and all these GOPs, it just makes it so easy.
And I actually, that's advice I would give people. I liked to just do carnivore for a couple of days prior to the 3-day fast and get fat adapted.
It makes it a lot
very
easier.
Yes, that's actually great advice. And you know what? While we're here, so that's
a good idea. I'm going to do that maybe.
Yeah, it works.
So the listener cannot get discouraged because getting fat adapted, especially when you're not. The typical response of the body is it doesn't feel good, right? Because, and the way that I like to create extremes for people so that they can kind of capture it. So when you look at a heroin addict, right? And he goes through the detox process of heroin. I mean, he stops heroin. He's on heroin. He feels great. He stops heroin and it's catastrophic, throwing up, pooping like crazy. And it's counterintuitive. I'm like, wait, hold on. He stopped the heroin and it feels worse. Well, that's because the body now says, oh, he's not putting the stuff in. Now I have time to clean all this stuff out. And it pushes it out of the body. So, so I created that extreme for people. It's the same thing when you're going through fat adaptation. Your body says, oh my God, I'm not processing the sugar and the toxins and the bullshit. So let me now push it out. And that's why people can get dizzy, lightheaded. They can, have diarrhea, acne, because the body's just pushing all the stuff out. So I always tell people, I'm like, look, if you feel like crap while you're doing this, that's a great thing. Because you're detoxing.
And it's also telling you you're toxic.
Yeah. And the first 30 days I did carnivore, I did have that. Like it was energies out of whack, bowel movements were, too liquidy. Like it's not fun. But then after you've done that adaptation process, it's kind of easy to get in and out now.
Right. Yes. Because now you have flexibility.
Yeah. I just stopped eating carbs and I feel myself almost go into, I guess it's ketosis or it's fat adapted metabolism. And I just, you get the clarity, you feel better, and then you're primed to fast too.
The problem is that people quit too early because they get these side effects and they say, this is not for me. So I get, and we talked about this with the nutritional studies, I kind of cringe when doctors say, well, no, this doesn't work for everybody. It's like, well, it works if you do it long enough because our ancestors, this is how they lived.
Because we've been eating meat for 2 million years.
We are coded to do this. You are coded to fast.
Yeah.
Right? You were engineered to do it.
One other question. Black coffee on the fast? Is
that allowed? Problem. Over 150 milligrams will again kick you out of that autophagy state. But again, how long? 15 minutes, 30 minutes, we don't have a measurement, but we know it's very short.
Got it. Okay.
But because of BDNF, you won't need it as much.
And the other thing, getting into autophagy becomes a lot easier once you become more keto adaptive as well. Especially you think things like spermidine, they can hack the system to go, and you don't need to go 25 hours to actually get into autophagy. You can create mild autophagy states where you're constantly chipping away at the garbage, right?
Right.
So anyways, where we were, like biological signalers, the
Pathways.
main pathways, which are signals, and then the consequences of not treating biology and rhythms correctly and trying to force outcomes is where you get into the hallmarks of aging. So 2009, Carlos something Sanchez, I believe is his name, identified there was 9 hallmarks of aging, and then 2023, another 4 were added. So basically 16 now. Sorry, it started 9. Then in 2023, they added 3 more, so it became 12. And last year, they're still not recognized by the entire community, but they've added 4, like circadian alignment, microbiome. I mean, I think these things have a lot to do with the way the body ages.
And these are the basic 16 hallmarks that age you and kill you the fastest.
So examples would be mitochondrial dysfunction. If the nuclear power plants don't work, you don't produce energy, you can't do fucking anything. And it's not, forget about muscle, immune system, brain function, you just can't perform. Loss of proteostasis. It's the shredder machine that basically recycles proteins when you're in autophagy. If that system drops, then you can't clean out the garbage, right? Then you have telomere attrition, right? Your telomeres start to break down. You have 46 chromosomes, and in each chromosome you have 2 telomeres, which is 92 telomeres. If one gets critically shortened, telomeres start to break down. So it's like a shoelace, a little cap. If that cap breaks down, it frays, right? So the shorter it gets, the more susceptible you are to getting sick and the accelerated process of aging.
And the protein perostasis, which is an important
You
one.
have, stem cell exhaustion. Your recovery system, which is your stem cells, basically stop, right? Or they decrease. Remember last time it was 1 in 10,000 cells is a stem cell. By the time you're a teen, okay, so that exponentially goes down. So your repair mechanisms drop. Well, we can get into. I don't think we got into Juven if we have time later. But the workout of the bones. There's a machine that actually builds bones. You can convert your bone marrow back to a state that you can produce healthy stem cell production. But then you have what else? Compromised autophagy, right? You have altered intercellular communication where your cells don't properly communicate and there's just
Noise.
chaos. And then you have dysregulated nutrient sensing where your body AMPK, mTOR, NRF2, all these pathways are just not properly activating when they should, right? Like when you should be burning fat, you're storing fat. So there's 12 of these, and now we've added 4, which are more aligned with just nature, right? So if you don't follow these pathways, these hallmarks of aging, which are the fundamental pillars that hold you up, begin to break down. So the more damage we accumulate, the more these biological processes break down, causing oxidation. Just like metal turns into rust, meat decays, we decay with biological cellular rust. And then what happens is it gets to a point where your body, it's either regenerating or breaking down. So everything you consume from food, exercise, light, sleep, environmental toxins, even your emotions, it's just information that your body's trying to figure out what to do with it. And it is either breaking down or building, right? So all that gets dysregulated. And then you break down to the point, now the last piece is the 13 organ systems. They're called organelles inside your cells, where it's your mitochondria, right? The power plant. The nucleus is the brain where your DNA sits, your blueprint. Then you have the lysosome, which is a little Pac-Man that basically eats everything inside. Then you have the endoplasmic reticulum that basically is the protein packaging system. Then you have the Golgi apparatus, which is what basically packages all these proteins and fats in order to transform. And the list goes on. The cytoskeleton, which is what holds the structure of it, right? The cytoplasm, that's where you actually produce glycolysis. It breaks down into pyruvate, eventually goes into the Krebs cycle, you make freaking energy.
I mean, you're really getting that when he's talking about this. It's like, and I'm pretty sure you're getting down to almost like
you're going down to the smallest part.
Of course.
Like this is where life is engineered.
Smallest level of organization.
Yeah, it's
right?
like almost
the
conception.
organelles.
Conception. It's like the lowest point of existence. You know,
the
like
way,
how everything
the
functions.
way we like to say this, instead of jacking up your body, jack up the cell.
Yeah.
If you can narrow down and zoom in into the cell, and you can fix all these little machineries. It's a factory machine.
Yeah.
And you fix that factory, then when you zoom out, all organ systems will work better. Yeah. And then when you zoom out of that, your lifestyle is much freaking better.
Yeah. Right.
And then you, obviously you have the time factor, right? The entropy, right? So these things degrade just because of time. I mean, without talking about, stress and accumulative stress and toxins and all that stuff, just time itself. And so we think that when you do peptides correctly, since you are signaling these things, this is when you start to slow down that rate of these hallmarks, which is really the ultimate ROI for peptides.
Got it. So you're starting with the end in mind of optimizing or slowing down these pathways. Correct. And that's what you build the peptide dosing frequency framework around.
Which is is why we told, when we did the first segment, it's like, hey, if you're thinking about these products as supplements of the one line marketing promise of build muscle, burn fat, get energy. I mean, that's consumerism, right? You're not really looking at it from a sustainable medicinal value that extends over time. Yeah. Right. Which is really what we're looking for. I mean, when you look at longevity, what does longevity even really mean? How do you measure it? Right? Like for me, it's like I'm 45. I get on the mountain. I'm competing against 25-year-olds. My friends from high school couldn't stand a chance. And I'm like, okay, all these things are really working because I'm able to do the same, if not more, as I'm aging. Yeah, right. Because I'm treating these organelles.
Yeah. And we'll get into eventually, as he said, how do you measure longevity? There's actually one way, the best way we know so far available to us, which is kind of like the black card, the Joker card for us that nobody's really talking about or using, and we're definitely using, which is genetically engineered peptides, which we can get into that later, but it's treating and nourishing these hallmarks of aging, right? And you start from the weakest link. If my mitochondria are dysfunctional, let's work on building mitochondria, right? So you want to lift these pillars uniformly, but emphasize more on the one that's lacking, right?
Or in the same vein, some people have like a compromised immune system from a genetic perspective, and they're trying to rev up the engine, and it's their immune system is breaking down as they're revving the engine. So it's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and there's at the end of the day you're going to have consequences.
So signaling pathways, hallmarks of aging are the results of not respecting biology and these laws.
Yeah, they're the symptom.
And then when you zoom in, the ultimate damage is our cells. Yeah. Remember we spoke about, we produce and we die. We basically kill 2 million cells per second in a day in the billions, right? And just to maintain 35 to 40 trillion cells, right? You have over 1 trillion chemical reactions per second, over 1 trillion. This is actually a scientific fact. Like when you put it all together, over 1 trillion, every single second right now, there's 1 trillion chemical reactions going on, right? There's over 100,000 protein to protein interactions. Like testosterone is influencing the cellular receptor, and then there's an intracellular effect, and more proteins are produced. So it's a never-ending, infinite, incredible machinery, right? So that's where we get into the seasons. So before we get into the seasons, let me caveat with something. First, when somebody comes to us, we start with sort of the chokehold. What's going on? Yeah. Like, where's the damage? I can't start you on growth on the summer when you're dysfunctional. Yeah.
I got to what's the pathway that we need to focus on you specifically first?
Fix those, and then you follow the cyclical, seasonal rhythms of the laws of biology. Yeah. It's almost like the background software code. You start up front with the weakest links, and eventually you align yourself with the software background code, which is aligned with seasons. Of course, like for example, we're going skiing right now. In a week, we should be in turning off enter. We should be basically longevity cleaning, and we're going to be using some performance stuff, right? Because we need to perform at a very high level. So there's a way and principle and a philosophy behind it, and we want to follow it as much as we can. But sometimes, we're living life.
And it's also a way of, and we talked a little bit about this on the last segment, is like, if I don't schedule my vacation, I'll work during my vacation, right? If I don't schedule these pit stops, I'll just be constantly on growth mode because that's what I like, right? And,
we're creatures of habit.
Yeah, and we guys, especially guys, and I don't want to discriminate, but we guys are constantly thinking about that performance, muscle growth, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, wait a second. I mean, what about my brain? What am I going to think about my brain? What am I going to think about my mitochondria and my immune system? By the way, I never get sick, but is my my thymus gland diminishing over time? Yes. Is immune system really important for longevity? 100%. Well, when am I going to focus on a protocol that really stimulates and signals that pathway when I'm really not going to feel anything? Like, you're not going to feel anything from doing something like thymus and alpha-1 unless you're sick or unless your entire household gets sick and you notice that you're not getting sick. That's when you notice it. But are you going to feel something? No. Is it less important? Absolutely not. It's probably more important, right? The seasonal thing, the seasonal thing that we kind of are proposing is just a way for us to get scheduled and have like a framework to follow. Yeah. Sure. Doesn't mean that it's like set in stone, but it's something to think about. Okay, now like what time of the season is it? My metabolism is not the same in December than it is in July. So in July, I'm going to focus on this pathway, right? And that's you kind of get organized.
We try our best to follow them, but life, we're living life and gets in the way, and we modify, right? But we try to follow biology, and it's funny that we try to grow all the time, and people don't realize that you have your immune system, your nervous system, your cardiovascular system, your endocrine system, your endocannabinoid system, which nobody thinks about and you got to nourish, and metabolism and so on, right? There's 11 of these systems. The hierarchy is your immune system. Yep. If your immune system is dysfunctional, there's the gateway to your castle is open. You're open and you're susceptible to being attacked. And if that is not fortified, then don't talk to me about building. Don't talk to me about cardiovascular endurance training. Don't talk to me about anything that has to do with performance.
And the practical application of that is,
to me, to me, the philosophy is if my immune system is strong, that's how I measure power. If I have a sharp as attack immune system, then everything else becomes easier.
Right.
And that's why we're not scared of the next C comes around or any virus for that matter, because I will play my odds because of how dialed in we are, and we have these tools. This is where you step outside of that, right? If there's a freaking virus that, I don't know, people are growing second heads, I'm going to be shooting up thymus and alpha-1 every single day for as long as I need to, right? Boosting my immune system, putting your immune system under a steroid mode so it can fend off itself. And remember, everything we've spoken about is always caveated with, if you're not taking the proper key nutrients, then you can't sustain all these functions. There's signalers, but they don't have the tools the raw materials to actually do the job. So
and a practical kind of like application to this for people to like, because we got into very deep science. So like a practical application of this, the saying applies like healthy people have 1,000 problems, sick people have one. Right. And so it's funny because in the management of some of these patients that we like take on a journey, right? And like you said, we try to follow the seasons, but if you need mitochondrial help right now, like we're gonna do that, right? Sure. So, but it's funny because then you get guys who get dialed in physically, and then they start to notice like, man, I get sick a lot. Carlos, what should I do? I'm like, I told you, man. Like your immune system is important. Now we're gonna do a bunch of immune system, and guess what? I mean, immune system protocols. You're not gonna feel anything, but you will in a year from now when the next flu season comes around and you don't get sick.
Would you rather have 1 Bitcoin today or 2 Bitcoin a few years from now? Bitcoin mining is a tried and true strategy for accumulating Bitcoin. Over a 2 to 4 year time frame, successful miners have consistently accumulated more Bitcoin than they otherwise would with a traditional dollar cost average strategy. Blockware mining as a service enables you to start mining Bitcoin from your laptop. Blockware handles everything from securing the miners to sourcing low-cost power to configuring the mining pool. They do it all. Plus, with Blockware's one-of-a-kind mining marketplace, you can buy and sell live Bitcoin miners with just a few keystrokes. In this marketplace, buyers get to purchase live machines at vetted facilities, enabling them to mine with zero lead time. And sellers get the opportunity to liquidate their machines and hosting contracts at will. This means you can mine Bitcoin with zero long-term commitment and high liquidity on your mining rigs. Blockware will even cover your energy bill for 1 week per mining rig when you sign up at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Again, that's 1 free week of Bitcoin mining at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. And on top of this offer, you can also use code BREEDLOVE to get $100 off your first mining rig with Blockware Solutions.
Well, the funny thing about the immune system, it's kind of like a security for your wealth, right? Whether that's
Correct.
a bank or self-custody, it's like when it's working, you shouldn't notice it, basically. It's like it's just
Exactly.
keeping you secure.
Yeah.
But
Something's
you
like-
do notice it when something's compromised.
No news is good news.
Yes, exactly, exactly. What? So the immune system too. It sounds like you're using the science to be proactive rather than reactive.
1000%.
Right. So let me go ahead and do the maintenance on my security, your self-custody setup or your bank or whatever it is you're using. I'm using a monetary analogy here, of course.
Of course.
It's like, do that work up front. Don't wait until, there's robbers in the bank. Now let's go and try to fix the integrity of the vault.
1,000%. And you know, it's funny that you say that because I had this conversation with a gentleman, one of our patients. We found something really funky on his labs. He's 57 years old. So young, right? He started to get into this optimization, taking care of his health, being intentional at 55. So, but he's had 55 years of abuse, wear and tear, DNA damage, all this stuff, right? So he does his annual labs and we find something in his blood. Like
Before you could to give context to people, this is where you have to, we're always thinking the long game. I want to look good, but I also want to live a healthy life my entire life.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I have to reduce a little my performance or my look, I don't have a problem. So the receipt, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Whether it's at 50, and we see it because we have thousands of patients, and I've personally learned a lot from seeing the 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that basically did marathons all their life, and they have all types of issues. So the point is, once you're at the age of this patient that we have, you're so vulnerable to many things. And then once a system breaks down with what he's explaining, now you're even more vulnerable. So it's like a cascade effect that it's a dangerous slippery slope.
That's very so when one system goes down,
Right.
the structure is compromised.
It's like a structural pillar collapsing.
and now you have other systems that start
And
to
now this is, we'll eventually get into that. This is with the genetic engineered peptides. There's genes, right, they can be favorably expressed or unfavorably expressed, upward or downward. So it's like just a bunch of signals. So if one goes down, it's an economy of balance. So your body's going to find a way to compensate for that. So some other system is going to start getting overworked, but that system eventually is going to overheat, and that system collapses, and then the whole system collapses.
So we found something suspicious on his blood, and it's called smudge cells, which could be leukemia. So the doctor saw him. He's like, "Hey man, you need to do a follow-up hematologist." So I start talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, is this really that serious? I feel great." I'm like, "Hey man, look, labs are not the end all be all, but they're flags, and these are flags that should be followed till their end. And if there's nothing, hallelujah. But if there is something, now early detection is the secret to beating any disease, really." So he does the follow-up. 3 months later, he confirmed leukemia, right? Low-grade leukemia, stage 1. And he starts asking me like, "How can this happen?" I started getting healthy, and I'm like, "Yeah, man. You started getting healthy at 57. You had 55 years of damage, and it's like Miguel said, an economy of balance. I mean, think of a company that has 5 times the expenses and half the revenue. I mean, it goes bankrupt, and that's cancer. The system runs out, pillars go down, hierarchies, and the system goes haywire. Yeah. The system picks the weakest link, and it could be cancer. It could be anything, right? So for this guy, I'm like, listen, first of all, stay positive. We caught it in time, but this is one. Now, unfortunately, like what you're saying, now you're reacting.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're reacting and you're dealing with the bad news, which has consequences. And some people just the news can break them down, right? So you don't want to be in that situation. Cancer's on the rise for a reason. Yeah. You want to be on the opposite side of that and calm that down, because your body's fighting cancer every day of your life since the moment you're born. You have, tumor suppressing genes, tumor promoting genes, and that's what he was talking about, the switches. So
if you leave the tumor promoting genes long enough and you accumulate senescent cells in garbage, you will get a tumor. You will get cancer.
So how do we start with peptides?
I mean, we're in December, right? So
winter.
We would
now
be.
let's take it from right now that we're in winter.
We would be in winter. So let's just talk about a couple peptides and we'll sequence the whole.
And we're talking about like a beginner with peptides, basically.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, beginner and advanced at the same time. For whoever's already taking peptides and they've been on the same peptide forever.
Yeah.
On peptides, it's not about forcing, it's about nudging. And we've learned this from the best in the world, Dr. John Catanzaro, who is, if you just put that guy on YouTube, Dr. John Catanzaro, Neo 7 Bioscience. He will talk about molecular makeup and structure and architect in a way that I've never heard anybody speak. Mm-hmm. So after being under his training, continuous training, we've learned it's about nudging the system. So when we're working with cancer patients, which we are, we had a patient that we started literally. And it's funny because we always know when people are like, oh no, I'm injecting 20 units. No, unless you know how many milligrams a vial has, how much water you put into it, and how many units, you don't know what you're actually injecting.
Units are a measurement of volume. They're not a dose.
Exactly.
You know?
It's a measurement of syringe and volume, right? Yeah. So in this world, we are talking units because some of these single dose vials can have 17 different peptides, and some of these peptides we don't know because we produce about 7,000 peptides for energy, for recovery, for tanning, as you know, for everything, right? And the way they can be sequenced is to infinity. Remember we spoke, there's a amino acid alphabet, 20 amino acids. So if you grab something like DSIP, delta sleeping inducing peptides, 9 amino acids, but let's round it off to 10. 20 amino acids to the power of 10, meaning 20 times 20 times 20, 10 times, you get 10.2 trillion different sequences of information you can get. This is why...
Meaning how it interacts with your genes.
Yeah.
Right. This is what... So these peptides are like 17 in one. So this patient... he said, listen, let's start with 10 units. And it was supposed to be Monday intramuscular, Wednesday subcutaneous, on Friday with a 250 milliliter saline solution bag, put the 10 units. I'm like, that's so small. I'm like, it's not doing anything. Remember, and we told the patient, like, listen, we're a fish out of water on this. Like, so he has 3 products, which we'll get into, which is longevity for the spike mRNA, for the mRNA spike protein, and then for disease. So we took on some diseased patients. I guess God wants us to delve into that. So we said, look, we're under his training. So obviously we're students. Patient started within like 3 weeks. She started getting rashes and a reaction in her body. This is a lymphoma patient. And, you know, we contact John and he's like, this is a good sign. It's a body reacting, but we got to back off. So nudge, like you're nudging, you're not forcing. So you have to back off, let the body recalibrate and then come back at it.
This is where the art comes in.
So
like a chef that kind of, he doesn't know exactly the measurement, but he's kind of going
tasting
on.
as he goes.
Right.
Exactly. So the reason why I'm saying that to come full circle is some people are, I don't know, staying on CJC EPA all year around. And then if you constantly eat pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in between snack, there's going to be a point that you're going to reject it. You're just not going to want to eat it. Your cells could react the same way. So you got to cycle in and out, right? So we're in December. This is basically, we came out of summer, growth, performance, lots of damage. So we grow, we regenerate, and we adapt. And we come back and keep repeating the cycle.
It's like when the city shuts down and maintenance crews come in and check the wiring. Like this is when you kind of start the repairing process.
And that's winter.
So yeah, but I'm giving you the prelude. You just came out of, summer is growth, then you fall into fall, which is you're sustaining some of that and transitioning into winter. And in winter is basically, and I'm talking about work. We'll get into, when we get to summer, we'll even bring like how to work out and everything because it's all interrelated. If you're using peptides for the most part, you're using them for performance as well. So in winter, we're stimulating the immune system, regulating the tonality of your immune system. By the way, your thymus gland, which sits right here in your chest, by the time you're 15 years of age, starts to involute, it starts to shrink. So that's the first gland that goes. That's why during the C in 2020, people with a lot of inflammation over 50, you have less than 25% function of the thymus, some number like that. So you're more vulnerable to being exposed. So you start.
Funny thing about that time, thymus and alpha-1 was being used on the first responders in New York when it first broke out, and none of the first responders got infected.
Wow.
Every emergency doc, most emergency doctors were using thymosin alpha-1. It's one of the most, if not the most studied peptide on planet Earth with the most amount of clinical evidence behind it.
Been around 30 years.
So they were just resistant to getting infected by the pandemic.
You're creating a bubble around you.
Wow.
You're producing high levels of lymphocytes, which are your first line of defense.
Yeah.
People were dying because of lymphocytopenia. They were running out of soldiers. So I collapsed. I surrender. White flag.
Right. Wow.
So definitely something like thymosin alpha-1 to regulate the tonality of your immune system.
And think about a polar bear. Think about bears. What do they do during the winter? They chill.
Yeah.
Hibernate. They're doing nothing.
So let me
They're
just
preparing.
let me just touch the workout part. You're still working out. You're not pushing 100%.
Yeah.
You're more like 60%. You're cruising. You're not over exaggerating anything. You're taking it easier during those 3 months. You're being more gentle with your system. It's almost like a semi pit stop. You're letting your body just regenerate. So thymosin alpha-1 is one of, and again, there's no exact way. This is from our medical experience working with many doctors, like digging, really digging.
And thousands of patients.
And I don't even hear Dr. William Seeds, who's one of the greatest minds in peptides, talking about this stuff the way we are, right? And I know that if they watch this, they can. What we're saying is very defensible, and again, these are laws. You cannot deny these.
And
laws.
by the way, to credit Dr. Seeds, when you hear this guy speak, man, I mean, he explains biochemistry like I feel dumb every time I go to one of his like lessons, right? And we're like, okay, this is amazing information for me to understand like how the organism works, but how do I apply it in real life?
Right.
How do I apply for people
Theory
to get,
versus the practice.
Yeah, exactly. Like medicinal benefits that I could actually tangibly experience, right? And this is how we.
And as we touched on last time, it's like you obviously need both. And the practice is where you get the anecdotal evidence.
Correct.
But what you guys are saying is you don't have just your own anecdotal evidence. You have thousands and thousands of patients over
and then we see
over a
labs and over time. That's another factor. Over time, years.
Yes. So whereas a lot of people tend to default like, oh, where are the studies? Show me the studies. It's like, well, look, there's a lot of things, nutrition, as you mentioned earlier, that doesn't exist for. This is actually a really rich source of data.
Yeah, correct.
Anecdotal evidence is real.
Yeah.
And we've seen it because we're an out-of-pocket clinic, right? We're out-of-pocket expense. So if we don't produce results,
you're going to
wouldn't be in business. We've been in business for 10 years, and we're the number 1 5-star rated clinic out here in Florida, growing, and we're growing for a reason. Because we're producing results, right? And we're constantly recorrecting. We tell all our patients, remember, it goes back down to these 6.4 billion nucleotide letters that we talked about. Unless we can sequence them and know exactly how they're aligned, there's genetic errors, and not to mention environmental, how the environment reacts with your body.
Irreducible complexity.
Yeah. And so I think the moral is like, yes, this is science, and science matters a lot, but you also have to respect the art equally.
Yes.
The art and the science work hand in hand.
And it's like everything. It's like the dance, the frequency, the in and out. You know?
And by the way, AGCT, the alphabet that codes God's creation. We coined it that, which is really the 4 letters that make our entire genome and make us. There'll never be another breed of love, and there will never. There was never another pre-love, and there will never be another one.
Yes.
So that's how unique the creation of God is. That
it's like your fingerprint.
So it's inside the code. It's written inside the code.
Yeah.
So winter, we talk about, I think that the first hierarchy, right? The brain. So in the winter, we do things like cerebral lysin, C-Max, C-Lank, dihexa to kind of, especially someone who's had a lot of damage. We talk about people who have drug abuse and just been completely inflamed and all that. I mean, this is the master center, right? So we have to clean this out, right? Most people don't clean this out. So, I mean, think about people that talk about mental fog.
Yeah.
How many people suffer from this, right? So we clean the brain out, right? And so this is a time where you repair the brain, work on the brain, and that starts to have a trickle effect. And you combine things like thymosin alpha-1 because you want your immune system, especially during the winter. I mean, what happens during the winter? Cold, flu exposure, all these things, and you want your immune system to be super resilient.
Right.
And it works in tandem with your brain.
Yeah.
Right? So you're repairing the brain, you're working on the immune system, and then you work on longevity genes as well. So this is where like the epithalon of the worlds come in, the clotho, right? Which these are like longevity peptides that are creating these signals for longevity while you're repairing these centers like the brain and the immune system. So they all kind of interconnect. But notice how we're not talking while we're doing this. We're not also making the body work on a system that's not supposed to be engaged at this time.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, again, like Miguel said, look, life happens. We're going to go skiing. I need performance. So am I going to do a tiny bit of performance because I needed to repair faster and things like that? So yeah, so you adjust to the circumstance.
Sure.
But you know, whether you're someone that's starting or whether you're someone that's advanced, this is kind of how you schedule it for yourself. Be like, hey, in winter, I know that for sure I'm going to do thymus and alpha-1 and I'm going to do my brain peptides. For sure. Those are like fundamental for this time.
Are you also, I mean, this is separate from peptides, but taking in more calories, trying to eat, you know, people often bulk in the winter and cut in the summer. Like, is that part of this as well? That in this rest and recovery phase, you want to be eating more?
So there is a nutrient aspect to this, but more importantly, it's also the exertion that we feel like that's more important. So like Miguel said, like this is when you focus on, you know, I mean, you're still going to pump weights and stuff, but you're going to prioritize more other kinds of exercise so that you don't engage in the pathway that you're supposed to let rest at this time.
I see.
Right?
So yeah,
Correct.
I'll add,
Agree?
and I'll add a couple things on the winter part, aside from, you know, because listen, anybody that tells you they know it all, it's just so much information to hold, right? Yeah. So sometimes we have to go back and review it. But like the hexa cleans out a lot of the garbage, the tau tangles, the beta amyloid plaques, which is what leads to Alzheimer's and many neurodegenerative diseases. So,
by the way, are we over an hour on this?
No. I have we're 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, we're gonna hit it again.
By the way, so when he talks about dihexa, this is also another important one because a lot of people will buy dihexa and will do it for months.
Right, there's a
45 days break.
Right. Some doctors say 45 days, 60 days, right? Like, so we're not going to get into all the details because this is what's going to come out of our book. So we're not going to give all little gems away. Read our book when it comes out. But like in that 12-week segment, there's certain things you can do the entire 12 weeks. There's certain things that you do the first 6 weeks and then break up the other 6 weeks. There's subcategories that depending, again, there's just, it's infinite. But like we just try to connect it all the best we can so it makes sense, right? Yeah.
There's an organizing system.
Exactly. As organized as we can get with God's code creation, right? So you hit stuff like what cerebralizing is one of our favorite. I mean, we have, what's his name? Cindy's, remember his arm? Like that was the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, this is one of the most
impressive things in the power of cerebralizing and CMAX combined.
So just so you ever understand, cerebralizing is a complex combination of different peptides. It's literally the best way I could describe it is stem cells for the brain. It is, when we talk about a neurotropic, neuro-regulator complex peptide that literally covers as much ground as possible. Like it's like throwing a net that covers cleaning out the axons, causing synaptogenesis, neurogenesis, a better GABAergic tone, serotonergic, dopaminergic tonality, all of it, right? It would be cerebralizing. Right. And you're injecting, there's many different protocols, but you can inject 2 mLs 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And it's just stem cells for the brain. You're rewiring everything, cleaning up the entire system, right? You can add, but that's so strong that maybe you don't need the dihexa. Again, there's no studies. The dihexa is cleaning out beta amyloids. This could work as well by cleaning all. So you have, you know, it's the dendrites, it's the axon, and then it's the tau, right? Like every peptide hits different modalities. I mean, not modalities, parts of that neuron, right? And that's what we're trying to clean up. So cerebralizing to clean up the brain. DSIP, delta sleeping inducing peptide. A lot of people, it's a hit and miss with DSIP we've seen, but we believe is, okay, if you're not dialed in and you're not clean, DSIP is a very sort of like delicate peptide, but it's supposed to regulate your sleep. It's supposed to improve deep sleep. And that's why it's called delta sleeping inducing peptide. It's really to help you get deep restorative sleep. REM is to clean out toxicity. REM is more for the brain. Deep is more for reset on the body. So you take something like delta sleeping inducing peptide. You don't do it every day. Some protocols every other day, 5 days a week. What we're just trying to do is induce very strong restoration. And restoration starts with sleep. Sleep is king.
Of course. Yeah.
Without sleep, forget peptides, forget supplements, forget hormones, forget working out, forget nutrition, forget it all. Yeah. We need to really work on improving our sleep. And now new data shows that we can build sleep debt or sleep surplus.
Yeah. The Oura Ring actually is cool because it tells you.
No, even 8 sleep now. Yeah. Even the 8 sleep. Because it shows, just a quick little side note on that. Let's say you're going to go to Ibiza and party, for all I know, right? A week before, you try to work on maybe getting 30 minutes extra of sleep, like just stay in bed. So you build
a little savings.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what the science shows. So it showed the same individuals were deprived. They had sleep debt. And then,
don't bang on that.
And then one had surplus. And then, they put them to do a task the next day. I forgot it was a test or whatever. The ones that were sleep deprived that had debt didn't perform well. The ones that had the surplus, performance dropped maybe like 10, 15%. So you're still performing. And I don't know if you've ever noticed it. When you're feeling really good and you've been sleeping really good, you may have a bad night, but you can still respond. But if you've had really bad nights, we can also get into HRV, heart rate, like the metrics on Oura or 8 sleep.
I noticed just at the gym, like if I have a full 8 hours or more in the gym, it's just, you feel amazing. But if I'm 7 or below, I can feel it.
And everybody has a sweet spot, right? But I can tell you from experience, performance, if you're performing at a level, 7 to 8 hours is the sweet spot, right? Anything below, I don't get 7 hours. I can feel it. And pay attention if you I don't know if you have an 8 sleep or any wearable, but deep sleep. So I would play a game with my wife. I would wake up, I'm like, I bet you I got an hour of deep, an hour and like 45 minutes of REM. And like, I kid you not, literally 95% of the time I'm on point because that whole thing, don't wear the wearables, they're going to create anxiety, BS. You have to know how to use this first rule of order. Don't get overwhelmed and don't take the information as like, don't let the information overwhelm you. Use like, your stock is down, you're not going to let it overwhelm you and never log into your portfolio. No, it's just part of the cycle. So you have to know how to work with the metrics and don't get overwhelmed by them. But once you understand them, they're very useful.
Yeah, you can make really great decisions. What I found about the Oura Ring or like any metric, if you can't track it, you can't hack it, right? But like understanding your sleep and understanding your recovery cycles will help you make decisions that day as to how much stress and load you'll take on. So that the next day, you can be on point. Like today, I don't feel good. I shouldn't go cold plunging when my recovery sucked.
Right.
Because then tomorrow I'm going to pay that debt. Right. So
you can't track it, you can't measure it, you can't hack it. If you can't hack it, you can't measure it.
Just really quick.
Sorry, you can't track it.
Don't bang on the thing because you could hear it on the microphone. Sorry. You do that every podcast. So, but I wanted to kind of just give you some, and I'm happy to provide.
But you come my point, just so he doesn't lose this point. If you ever measure, and for the viewers that do use some form of metric that you can actually get your deep and REM sleep, pay attention when you don't get enough deep sleep. Like 1 hour or more is good, right? Like you want minimum an hour. The more, the merrier. But if you're under an hour, like let's say you got 30 minutes at night, you're gonna feel aches and pains. Your willpower is not the same. You're more hungry because ghrelin and leptin, again, it's out of whack. So you're more hungry when you shouldn't. You eat and you're still hungry, and your body you're just not performing out of whack. So that's the deep. And deep sleep, when you get enough, that's why it's called deep sleep. When you're in deep sleep, that you go into paralysis, your body does not move, and that's where you get erections, nocturnal erections. And that's where your hormones reset. That's when your body cleans out the garbage. And that's why you wake up. That's usually your sex drive is the best in the morning. Your hormones are at the highest. By the end of the day, they drop like 50%. Right? There's, again, cycles. REM sleep.
That's why morning intimacy feels really good.
More of a night guy myself.
And if you're on T and you're not feeling that euphoric feeling, you might need to add a little bit of progesterone to activate gamma-energic pathways that will actually help you feel more sensation when you ejaculate.
So I actually have the D-sip, but I haven't tried it. Is that something you could do just sporadically? It's like, I want to have really good sleep tonight, let me take it now? Or is it something you need to do a cycle of?
Yes, but you got to prep the body for it. You got to be prepping for it, right? Because a lot of people don't feel anything with it. But I can tell you that used correctly, following metrics like the Oura Ring, I could see the improvement in my deep sleep, specifically in deep sleep.
Yeah, you will see it. You'll see it with your
And there's studies that improve LH and FSH production, which are fertility reproductive markers, which are not just for fertility, they're actually longevity markers. They stimulate other things. It's not just producing more sperm, right? Or, more eggs in
more
women.
testosterone.
Yeah, because what happens is you shut down the HPTA axis, hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis. And when you shut that down, we spoke about this last time, you're not just shutting down LH, FSH, you're shutting down pregnenolone, DHEA, you're shutting down a lot of neurosteroids. So this is where DHEA, pregnenolone, and many other neurosteroids come in.
The growth hormones, secretagogues, like specifically CJC and IPA, I noticed myself having way better sleep. Is that REM or is that deep sleep that I'm getting?
It could be both.
Yeah, it could be both. Exactly.
Could be both. But interesting point, because the when you talk about FDA approved and all this stuff, you talk about
don't
FDA.
like 3 digits.
I'm saying though, that's not what I'm trying to say is like people that are watching this will go out to companies and they'll like most companies that are doing 503A FDA regulated peptides. The only one that you'll find for growth hormone is either tesamorelin or sermorelin. Right? There is hexarelin as well, which kind of acts like sermorelin. It's but I just had an experience with that where sermorelin, which I call it's kind of like a
leave it. Don't
but just
leave
for
it for the summer. We're gonna get to summer.
I know, but I'm just gonna address this point about sleep. So hexarelin and sermorelin, like I didn't notice it physically, but dude. So it's, when I started to watch my Oura ring, I'm like, bro, my recovery sucks. My heart rate is all the way like at 70. I'm usually in the low 40s, mid 40s, right? And I started to like, what am I doing? And I was taking hexarelin. So I dig into it, raises ATCH, nighttime cortisol, crashes UHRV, blah, blah, blah. So, I'm doing a growth hormone secretagogue peptide, but I'm crushing my recovery, right? So is that something that I want to do? And the only way that I would have noticed was because I have this. I have the data. And I'm like, what's going on with my body, right? So otherwise I wouldn't have noticed it because it's so subtle.
Right.
It's so subtle. And I'm someone who kind of pushes through things. Like I could feel crappy, but I still find a way, and there's consequences to that, of course. But this is why it becomes so important. This is why it becomes so important to have this, because having this tomorrow, and I said, I'm going to cut this off. 2 days after I cut it off, my resting heart rate went from 70 to my baseline, which is mid 40s.
Wow.
Right? Like that in 2 days.
Huge difference.
Huge. 2 days.
Try to put that little thing in there. If not, have alcohol swabs to hit this up.
Yeah.
There we go again.
Then hexarelin does not work for you then, basically.
It doesn't work for me, and I would encourage any guy who's going to do it, they should be measuring.
Yeah.
Because when I did tesamorelin by itself, I didn't have this issue.
Okay.
When I do CJC epamorelin, I don't have this issue.
Right.
When I do IGF-1LR3, I don't have this issue. I go to hexarelin or sermorelin, bam. I have a problem.
Yeah, I did the hexarelin a couple of times too, but it was my blood pressure did a weird thing. So I was like, I don't think that one's for me.
Yeah.
And I've also heard guys like the CJC and IPA works really well for me. Tessa, I don't think I noticed as much, or I didn't.
What dose? It depends.
I was doing the dose. It was 2 milligrams a day.
Which is interesting.
1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, 5
Which
on,
is interesting because when you look at price,
also depends on source.
Tesamorelin is like the Ferrari, and look, it does spike your IGF-1 more than based on the research, more than any other peptide. But my feeling, my experience on CJC EPA is better.
Right. Well, that's largely what I was saying. But then some guys had the reverse. They're like CJC and EPA does nothing for me. Tessa feels amazing.
Correct. And that's another variable. We get into the research, but then we get into the experience, and some people respond totally different. I don't know what he's doing now.
Oh boy.
Please don't pass out on camera.
By the way,
that'll be good for you.
Oh, don't do that. I'm kidding, bro. No, this is my own plasma mixed in with Acorn, which is the second generation. Just, dude, here, clean here. Just use this one. Here's.
Well, no, I already did it, but it's stuck again.
Okay, forget it. Next time, just share this one, and you guys have alcohol swab. Okay. We'll talk about this later, but this is the product that we're using for many things. I did Morpheus on my face today.
Wait, are you actually injecting that in your body?
No, I'm not injecting. I'm just gonna drip it.
Oh, okay.
So I have plasma mixed in with it, and I have another concentrated. Check this out. This is actually a product. Comes with your name. It's your own genetic material.
Getting fucking freaky over here. Okay.
I just rub it in.
Oh yeah, so we talked about this the other day.
We haven't really gotten into it, but yeah.
Well, no, at dinner we talked about it.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this too.
So I just did Morpheus today. Usually people come out bloodshot red, and
beat
you can
up.
see beat up.
Yeah.
That's where you see this is where GHK copper peptide comes in. You start injecting it to remodel the matrix, cellular matrix of the skin, which is hyaluronic acid, collagen, type 1, type 3, fibrogen, actin, which is what gives elastin, which is what gives the elasticity to the skin. You're working with all the materials and fibroblasts, which are basically the cells that glue everything together. So right now I broke the skin with needles. I think it has like 24 needles on the head. So by breaking the fibers, they're supposed to go like that, right? Scar tissue is when the fibers don't go in, right? That's where you get scar, which is fibrosis. So what we're doing, I had some acne holes, wrinkles
Lines.
here. So you break the skin and you immediately apply this product, so it goes in and it starts. It's like you're giving it the cement, the sand, the glue.
Stem cells, right?
Yeah. Well, so it's stem cells without the cells. The
that's
stem
right.
cell secretes.
Exosomes?
No. So yes.
Okay.
So basically, this bottle on average brings 5 billion exosomes, and pound per pound, Dr. Taylor Andrew, who's the founder of this product, he's a genius. He did a study on the cytokines, the chemokines, the bioactive lipids, the growth factors, the peptides, because it's filled with peptides as well. The exosomes, the microvesicles, the extracellular matrix. There's a lot of different components in here. 34 times more potent than plasma.
No.
Now, I mixed this product with this one, right? Which is my plasma. So they took out my blood today. They centrifused it. I separate my plasma. The reason why I'm just using this as much as I can today, because it plaques up. The platelets basically plaque up, and it doesn't last more than 12 hours. This will last at least 14 days in the fridge. So when you break the skin, the epithelial cells of the skin, it regenerates within 3 days. It seals the skin. So throughout the next 3 days, I'm applying it 2-3 times a day. So this material, I'm giving, again, the raw materials, genetically tailored from my own cells to regenerate my skin. And dude, my brother knows, like I used to take Accutane because I had acne. Accutane is like you peel, like you've taken it before?
No, but I had friends in college.
Your lips, like you have to have
bad for your
chapstick.
liver and stuff.
It's horrible. No, it messes up your sperm for like 2 years. It's really bad. I took it for like 3 months. I would smoke, I would drink, I would be in the sun. I was a disaster. This is in my 20s. And I did 3 rounds of it. So by the time I was 30, I didn't pay attention. I said my wife called it, I had crocodile skin. Like it just started getting really bad and it starts accelerating. And I've seen tremendous difference. In fact, this is my 3rd one. I'm gonna do most likely 2 or 3 more because these wrinkles right here, you can get rid of them. After looking at the science, as long as you're using materials like plasma, but again, this is 34 times more powerful, so I'd rather use this. And on average, 5 billion exosomes. That's really the magical parts happen. You're giving the raw materials, so you're rebuilding, and then you keep doing it. You keep layering on top of layer on top of layer until you don't have wrinkles. You're literally erasing, and there's a point of no return. Once you get them too deep, you got to inject fillers. And as a man, I want to stay away from that, but I want to keep my front bumper as,
Yeah, no, I want to go. We talked about this at dinner a couple of weeks ago. I want to do this too because I'm aging too quickly.
So the viewer is not confused. So when he says these are stem cells without the cells, so just kind of like in an
we'll get into this if we have time.
Yeah, in an oversimplified form, like the stem cell is not what delivers the value, right? So it's kind of like the comparison that we always like to like. It's like the stem cells are the chef. The soup that you drink is what the chef delivers, right? You want the soup, not the chef. So
that's where all the concentrated ingredients are.
So the stem cell travels, it arrives where it needs to, and it secretes its package.
And it signals to bring, that's where thymosin beta 4 comes in, where it causes cellular migration, meaning a lot of cells get recruited to go to that area and repair. When you get injured, there's a gene called thymosin beta 4, is the one that activates to say, hey, go repair over there.
Yeah, the same as TB500, right?
It's
TB4.
So
it was that one and BPC 157, I think, that did the leaky gut repair on me.
So this is derived from his own genes, from hair, where you find a highest concentration of mesenchymal stem cells from your own genetics, and then the company, what they do, you send them a hair sample, like a bunch of hairs, 50 to 100 hairs.
100 hairs are extracted. There's 2,900 studies showing that the best place to extract stem cells is actually behind the head, because when you take out the follicle, there's a little bulb. So the stem cells,
little white meaty part that you
follicle.
the follicle.
which you have on average per hair about 1,500 live cells in there. I don't know how many are stem cells, but inside there's about 1,500, and they're preserved. It's kind of like it's inside its own soil, protected. And then in the lab, they can expand them, I think, up to 4 times. So 1,500 cells expanded by 4 times, and you're getting 100 hairs. I don't know how many millions that is, but you're getting at least 10 trays that you can store of your genetic material, which in the next 3 years, he most likely is going to have approval. So if you blow out your meniscus, ligament, tendon, you need a disc for your back, you order it and you're going to have it installed.
But the point is, like, they get the cells, they stimulate them in their own process. The cell secretes the secretome, which is all the exosomes, cytokines, all the cell growth factors, all that. They collect that, they concentrate it, and they put it in a vial. That's your genes, your genetics. So basically, you're basically squeezing the nectar of the stem cells that are your own.
Yes, and that guarantees compatibility and efficacy, I assume.
It's your own genetic material, brother.
And you can have it in your home, but like you said, second-degree burn, you blow out a meniscus, anything.
Think about it. Imagine you get in a car accident, you have a scar face.
Yeah.
Immediately, if you order it, it takes about 8 weeks to get it out of the lab and produce it. So if you have it in your fridge, you can immediately apply it. Or if you have a nasty scar, you do microneedling and you apply the product, and you can literally erase marks.
What, also for injuries and stuff, or is this purely cosmetic stuff?
Well, right now they're FDA their FDA registry is with topical use, right?
Is this the one you're
now? Again, we talk about anecdotal, going off the going out of bounds a little bit based on the science. We've seen this stuff work in different contexts. I think it's done.
No, there's still a little bit left.
So but the value of it, right, is when you think about stem cells, why do you think people need to give you 300 million stem cells? Well, most of them are going to get trapped in the lung because of the size, but that's why you need an overwhelming amount of stem cells, because when they get there, whichever ones get there, kind of like a sperm, like they don't all get there, and then they have to secrete their value. This is, you're concentrating it and you're directing it, and it's your own.
Got it.
Right, which
just
is
to
powerful.
be clear, the only stem cells that actually become tissue is embryonic cells, which is unethical to use those. So every other pluripotent cells, then from there it breaks down into different stem cells, which lose information, right? And the reason why you don't want to expand them is because I think after 4 expansions or something, it loses information. You don't get the same potency.
Right.
And then when you freeze them and then you thaw them, you lose a lot of them as well.
Yeah. So if you call a stem cell company, because it'll be like, oh, we're giving you 200 million cells. What pass? And pass means how many times they replicated them, right? Which they lose value. So after the 4th, you're losing a significant amount of potency. And so there's only 1 or 2 companies that actually release how many passes. And there's one company that says, we try as hard as we can to keep it to 6 passes. So if you call the company and be like, okay, you're giving me 200 million cells, how many passes? Most people don't even know they don't know how to answer that. Only the science people know how to answer that, and they probably won't want to tell you that because you're running a business, right?
It's the same principle as money printing. Once again,
exactly. Exactly.
Remember, take all the analogies back to money. We're in the What is Money show.
It makes it easy.
Although he's a freaking freak now about health, we're still in the money show, guys.
And this stuff is expensive, so umbilical cord is what most stem cell clinics use.
So there's
so you're saying that's not
no.
So there's embryonic only.
So you can get stem cells out of umbilical cords, the
fat,
there's umbilical cord, the placenta, and then there's a Warden's jelly, which is like the inner part of the umbilical cord. There's different parts you can extract them from. So some people, the people who sell the placenta say the placenta are the best. The ones that sell fat say the fat are the best.
Bone marrow is bone marrow.
This is what we say. No man can be trusted to talk anything other than his own book.
That's it.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you again, off label, because I know since this is my own genetic material and it's not the cells, because cells can cause immune rejection and can signal for tumors. In very rare cases, stem cells can do that. This cannot. So when I went to Mexico, I had an orthopedic doctor. Carlos and I have done autologous stem cells. Like they drilled into our freaking hip, Took out the stem cells. It's painful.
Not fun.
Not fun. But anyways, we've had 4 sessions already done. Literally like on clockwork every year. They don't last too long. I did it at 37. He did it at, I don't know, 41. No,
42.
I did it like at 38. You did it at 42 or something. Whatever. The point is that I injected my stem cells into my knee because I had a medial meniscus tear, bucket and handle tear, meaning the meniscus flipped inside. They injected my knee, didn't see results. 4 times. I injected this product. I mixed it with my plasma, the actual, because it comes lyophilized in powder form. I mixed it. The guy injected into my knee. That was back in July. It was on my birthday. So after my birthday, like July 5th. We're what? December? Yeah. Wait, what month are we on?
January.
Right? Sorry, January. Sorry, lost. Anyway.
Need some C-Max.
Yeah, I need some more C-Max. I think I oversaturated my brain cells.
That's just aging.
Yeah.
Lose track of time.
The point is no clicking, no inflammation, no pain. Gone.
One injection.
One session, yeah.
Session.
Wow.
So I already found an orthopedic doctor to do it off label. If you understand the science, you know it's as long as you handle it correctly. This stuff is very potent.
We're not recommending it for sure.
Yeah,
but,
we're offering. This is just us.
This is us being guinea pigs and creating the research and the data.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what Miguel's talking about, it's we understand the science, we understand the mechanism, we understand the pathway, we understand the signal, we understand the hierarchy, and then it's like, well, we have to try.
Yeah.
We have to try.
Yeah.
Like how do we set the boundaries?
Yeah.
How do we push the envelope on research? Right? And so we've become our own guinea pigs. And so it's like it starts with us, then our wives, then our family members, our friends, and then it's like, this should save. Let's go with it.
And look, it's so safe. I've injected it already twice. No, actually 3 times now intravenously. Like I'm experimenting with it. I'm doing every 2 months. On this trip when we're skiing, when I know there's gonna be a day because we always hit that day where like we're just sore. That's where we see our HRV just tanks. Right?
And you're at higher elevation too. So.
Our bodies are under a lot of stress. We're gonna go to an IV clinic with a 250 milliliter bag, put one of these valves, put one Quinton or 2 of them in there, the electrolytes that we spoke about to electrify the system.
Yeah.
And the healing effects, because this medicinal secretome, that's what it's called. You're gonna start hearing that word a lot more often.
Yeah.
It's forget stem cells. The power is in the secretome.
Yeah.
The stem cell is the FedEx truck.
Right.
The secretome is the packages inside,
Right.
and each package has different things. So when you introduce it into your body, so if you look at lung capillaries, I think they're like 10,000 to 15,000 nanometers in pocket sizes, but stem cells can be 15 to 25,000 nanometers. So it's so big that's why they get caught in the lungs.
Yeah.
And if you have lung issues, they're great for the lungs, right? But if you want to systemically, they need to pass the lungs in order to go and attach themselves like barnacle where there's inflammation. Stem cells are attracted to inflammation. The secretome is going to go wherever there's inflammation in my body. So if it's in my liver, if it's in my shoulder, if it's in my brain, where it's just going to penetrate everything, right? So again, this is off-label use, but I've seen good results, and we'll see. And I'm trying to measure, interleukin 6, interleukin 10, tumor necrosis alpha, specific inflammatory markers, C-reactive protein to see if they drop, right? Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, it's very interesting.
So
anyway,
back to C-Max.
Back to we're still fucking freaking in
Still in the winter time.
In the winter.
No, so but let me give him a direct kind of really amazing example of the power of C-Max and cerebrolysin. So I had my wife's cousin had a devastating brain injury.
If I can find the video.
I have it here. And I'll share it with your staff.
You guys should put it on the camera. Well, yeah.
No.
You can
splice it in.
Yeah, we can splice it out. So anyways, this kid, JP, he was driving his motorcycle on the way to the gym. Someone pulled out of a house and he had a devastating brain injury where he's basically paraplegic, right? And he could walk with assistance, but he has really bad spasticity, which is like where the limbs lock in place. And literally
people like this.
I have a video before. So I got him introduced to a scientific research project with the University of Texas and Herman Hospital, doing systemic IVs of stem cells to see what it would do for traumatic brain injuries. So, stem cells, he felt a little bit different, but it wasn't the promise that we thought, that it was going to be, specifically because a lot of them got trapped in his lung. So while we were doing this, we also gave him sessions of cerebrolysin and specifically C-Max after cerebrolysin. So when we got to the hospital, I mean, and you'll see the videos, I'm actually forcing because he has spasticity on all his left side. So his leg is locked out straight. You can't bend it. You have to bend it for him when you got to put him in the car and stuff. And his arm was locked like this. And I had to like physically force it. And you'll see how much like strength I'm using to bring the arm down. So he had no control of his arm. So we did cerebrolysin, which is, as Miguel says,
high dose of cerebrolysin,
like stem cells for the brain.
Intravenously.
And then we followed it with a C-Max. And dude, this kid, I mean, it took him a while.
Yeah.
But
You can see the arm shaking.
Yeah, his arm was shaking, but he could strain
and
it.
he freaking strained his arm by himself. It was new BDNF, neuroplasticity. You're creating neural connections to move that arm. You're making it familiar again.
He got on an assisted bicycle and he could pedal.
I think I read that in Russia they use these peptides for people that have stroke, brain injury, things. It's like their first response.
Exactly. TBI and strokes.
It's the first thing they give them.
100%.
And then here, we don't do that.
So when we're talking back in winter, we address the brain, we address immune, we address things like longevity factors.
Let me just finish adding one more peptide because people want to hear the peptides. So we said thymosin, we said neuro-regulatory peptides, DSIP to regulate circadian rhythm, and then definitely epithalon. Epithalon was just used in Russia, 10 milligrams over 10 days, and they saw the telomerase lengthen. The government had scientists trying to make a drug to make their soldiers bionic, like cyborgs. But then they realized in that process, these things regenerate the telomeres. If you can regenerate telomeres, you're stronger in every sense, right? Yeah. So what we've seen also, and again, medical anecdotal evidence, is using low doses like 300 to 600 micrograms daily. It realigns your circadian rhythm. It retrains the tonality of your circadian rhythm, and you use it maybe a couple of hours before bed. But the point is, you're cleaning out mostly the hypothalamus pituitary axis. So think of that axis. That's like the sergeant and the commander. I don't know which ranks more, but the point is those two centers literally regulate everything. So if you clean out that pathway, then everything is going to signal better in the body, right? Sometimes when people, because we do testosterone therapy, they come to us, they're taking estrogen blockers, they've done a lot of drugs, they're older. We want to clean out the brain first, so every signaling aspect of the body works better. Some people will debate if you start with inflammation first, the brain, right? Sometimes we start with the brain. Again, it's all anecdotal. And by the way, just to caveat this, we're using science coming from journals like Cells, Nature, New England Journal of Medicine, the American Medical JAMA Journal, and then sources like the National Institute of Health, PubMed. Like we're using credible journals,
Harvard, Princeton,
and
just
institutions.
So it's not like just some bro science that I read or some influencer online, right? We're looking at the best that we have. Right. So that's basically, in a nutshell, everything that covers winter, and FOXO4, which basically gets rid of senescent cells. It drives down P53, which is a gene protein that basically stimulates cancer or growth. So
the cool thing with FOXO4 and thymosin alpha-1 together, right? Because FOXO4, like if I'm going to dilute it, it's like you're getting rid of senescent cells, which are like cancer cells. But the cool thing with thymosin alpha-1 is thymosin alpha-1 works as one of these lights, where it kind of like, because some of these zombie cells can hide. So thymosin alpha-1, it almost like, when you like uncover a rock and you see a bunch of bugs, it uncovers it, and now FOXO4 can comes and just
burns everything out. It's like nukes everything, clean out the system, right? And that is dosed based on weight. Everything in reality should be dosed based on weight, but that one specifically you want to dose based on weight. And you're doing it like every other day for 5 or 6 rounds. So, and then, winter, what do? It's freaking Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's New Year. We eat like pigs. We should really be fasting. And again, as we said, bears are what? Hibernating. They're in autophagy state. They're cleaning the system out. So technically speaking, we should be cleaning out the system. Also working more on mobility. Right? Something that most people don't take into consideration. If you contract the muscle and you don't finish elongating it once you're done with the workout, that whole thing of stretching, static stretching before working out, it's the dumbest thing you can do, because if you overstretch the fibers, you won't fully be able to contract them.
Right.
So you can dynamically stretch, right? Like just warm up the body. You finish your workout and you go through a dynamic movement, a dynamic flow. There's a terminology out there called animal flow, where I used to be a yoga instructor and for 3 years, and I used to do yoga every day. I used to go from peacock to handstand. Okay, like I was really good at it, but I just didn't like the static stretching. I never connected to it, and I stopped stretching, and then the injury started like a year later. So
I was the opposite. I love the static stretching, man.
So what made sense to me is, okay, we're getting older, we're losing all these hormones, we're losing all these raw materials, and we're decaying. And one of the things that we're losing is collagen. And the more collagen we lose, don't just think skin. Your skin is a representation of how your joints are aging as well. So if you're really old, aside from sun damage, it means your joints are getting older, your tendons, your ligaments. So you need to create a mobility protocol that we have. It's no more than 20 minutes. It could take 15 minutes where you're going through specific stretches to open up the body so it stays elastic, because as we lose collagen, we rust.
Yeah, think about older people.
And we
They're
become
not
more stiff.
Think about older people.
To recover.
They're not very, limber.
Yeah.
Right? They're stiff. So you want to be doing these things. And as we go, like, just to kind of touch up on the seasons, think about the animal world. Some of the animal world, like everything is a preparation into what? Summer, when it's like growth, eating, reproduction, right? Like, so this is the kind of preparation.
And if you look at, start paying attention when you see a guy, older guy, fit, like Pepe is a perfect example. Freaking 59-year-old dude. I want to look at that guy when I'm 59.
Solid.
Diesel, but he looks old because he's stiff.
Yeah, you put him on a
wanna be-
surfboard,
Yeah.
and you see him walking, and you're like,
Damn, dude.
right? Like one of these dudes that you're like, damn, that guy's worked on his stuff. He looks great, like physically, skin, physique. Put him on a surfboard and he looks like a 90-year-old.
Can't move, yeah.
Injuries all
And then
over
he's
the
like,
place.
"Oh,
Yeah. So because of that, again, seeing patients like him, tell me, it was like a full wraparound. We were actually at Jay Campbell's conference, and what's his name? Christopher LeCain? LeCain.
Yeah.
He's a silver Olympic medalist, 55 years old. Dude, he showed a video of his stretching routine. He's like, we're going skiing, give me 5 minutes. Even if you have 5 minutes, he goes through his routine really quick. And this guy's 55 years old, has the elasticity. Stephen McCain, he has elasticity. Look him up online. Stephen McCain, he does coaching. He's phenomenal.
He looks super young.
He's
super young.
Super young.
Young spirit, too.
And and super elastic. And I was like, that was the wraparound moment where I'm like, okay, if I am gonna continue to play the long-term game, like the Bitcoin game, I'm not here to trade, I'm here to hold for dear life. Then you need to work on mobility, because without the mobility, you're gonna be limited.
One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove.
So I agree with all of this in principle, and this is why I've been doing the hot yoga and the hot Pilates.
Right.
Do you think that's adequate for this?
I do.
I don't care how you do it, how you get it. If hot yoga works for you, if Pilates works for you, if restorative yoga works for you, as long as you're stretching your limbs, right?
Got it.
One day when we'll do the next video, when we go work out and we'll show you the 3-2-1 NASA training type of thing we created, we'll go through a lot of movements. So you see that it's just more... so the way we set it up is I like reps, right? We're used to 1, 2, 3 and counting. Okay, so you stretch 10 times and then I call them the 5 breath of life. So 5 breath of life is about 10-second hold. So you 1, 2, you rep into it, you create movement, and then you hold. And the reason why you want 5 breath of life and specifically longer on the exhales because from years of training yoga, I really understood that on the exhale, the more you relax into the tension, the more your body goes, the muscles.
It's beautiful.
So there's these muscle spindles. They're like your alarm system. They tense up. And when you overstretch, they're trying to protect you. But when you breathe through it, they open up and, you just got a quarter of a centimeter more. And with time, you keep building on that. And then that's how you're very mobile. But be like, I always think of Bruce Lee. Be like water.
Yeah.
But it's also like... to your point, because you also got to find what works for you. And I feel like yoga is much more of a mental.
It's all mental.
It's a very mental exercise because you have to find comfort in the pain.
Yeah.
And isn't that a great analogy for life? Isn't that a great metaphor for life? Finding it
or redefine what pain is.
Yeah, finding comfort in the pain. And I'll tell you, like when I was in least pain, because I have herniated disc and all that stuff, and we do high impact sports, is when I had a routine where once a week I would do 1 hour yoga session. Yeah. And it was also about de-stressing, right? Like, stress, work, so you needed the time to schedule to kind of.
I've done like you guys, do lots of different types of workouts. I like the framing that yoga is more of a work in.
And
that the breathing is primary and the movement is secondary. So if your breath gets out of rhythm, that means you're overexerting.
Correct.
So.
And mobility is not like training, pushing. No, it's about being gentle with your body, listening to it, and letting it open. It's being graceful with yourself. Yeah. It's literally having that grace of treating your body like a temple.
My buddy Aaron, who you guys met at dinner, he goes, too many people are in the gym fucking themselves. He goes, more people need to be making love to themselves.
Dude, I was just about to say that. It's almost like an intimacy about it with yourself. It's really cool, especially with the breath. Yeah. So then, now that we're in winter and we've done all that, now we're going into spring, right? And then spring becomes a time of what? Like energy. Right, this is when we get into like mitochondria energy.
You can't start with growth unless you fix all energy pathways. Right. So insulin signaling, AMPK pathway. Now we're talking AMPK pathway. We're talking about certain genes to a certain extent. And
this is when the power comes back on, right? The winter, the power shuts down.
AMPK and mTOR, which one's growth and which one's
mTOR is growth.
mTOR is growth.
AMPK
is rest.
Is fasting, low insulin, low growth, all that, right? So then, you remember the analogy, like the city shuts down, the power, the workers come in to fix everything. Now it's like, okay, system generating back on. Let's turn energy back on. Let's see how many systems now work. And that's when we get into mitochondrial energy. We get into things like SS31, right? Where it repairs your mitochondria, which is an interesting concept, right? Because you have so much mitochondria, right? It makes up 95% of your energy production. We're talking about the energy that pumps your heart.
Let's just to give context again, we said this last time, 37 mitochondrial genes. It's the only system that has its own set of genes separate from us. So it's like its own living standing organism. 37 mitochondrial genes, and on average 500 to 2,000 mitochondria per cell. We have, let's just say, top it off at 40 trillion cells. We're talking a huge number here. Yeah. Wow. And like your eyes, your brain is estimated to have like 2 million mitochondria per neuron, right? So what was the point?
Well, and so we got into in the last segment we got into NMN, nicotine, mononucleotide.
25% of the volume space of your cell is mitochondria. So 25%. That's a big number of what makes up your cells. So you want to make sure you make your body weight roughly daily ATP, the amount of ATP you make per day is roughly your body weight.
Wow.
It's a lot of energy you have to produce. And that mechanism is like a rotor of an engine. It's very complex. That's why it has complex 1, 2, 3, all the way to 4. It's a very complex system. So you really want to work on improving mitochondria.
But before, so not just improving mitochondria, because we got into the last segment about feeding the mitochondria, right? It's kind of like you can feed a man, but he's still aging, right? You can, like, it's the analogy that you wear a t-shirt 20 years, it's going to have some wear and tear, right? Even though you can still wear it. So with NMN, you're feeding the mitochondria, which need that as a fuel source to pump out energy. But pumping out energy, you get wear and tear. Wear and tear. So
remember, NMN is converting into NAD+, NADH. It's a balance of just producing more electrons, which eventually those electrons will generate more ATP production, which is the universal energy currency of our body. It's the dollar currency for the body.
Right. Which is the output of the mitochondria.
Yeah. But the NMN and NAD and all that stuff is the food, is the substrate that they chew on so they can produce the electricity. But the power plant has wear and tear. And so now you get into the subject of SS31, where you're repairing the cardiolipin of the mitochondria, right? Which is that membrane. So it's kind of like, Miguel has a great analogy.
Cardiolipin. It's called the cardiolipin. The inner membrane, so it has an outer membrane, which is built out of phospholipids, and then the inner membrane also has phospholipids, but it's called the cardiolipin. And SS31 targets the regeneration of that.
And so it's kind of like a t-shirt that you worn for 20 years. Now imagine you do something that you put it in the washing machine and it comes out and it's like brand new, right? So now you're talking about deaccelerating the wear and tear and the aging process of the mitochondria, right? Not just feeding it. You should feed it, but what are we going to talk about? How are we going to repair the wear and tear? So that's when SS31 comes in. And now, remember we talked about the hallmarks of aging, mitochondrial function. So now you're repairing the mitochondria, right? So it can last longer.
MOTS-C.
So I was going to go. So depends on who is talking, and they will say, "Oh no, you need to do MOTS-C first." And
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
it's all anecdotal. Okay. At the end of the day, you can do them together or separate, however you want. And it also, you have to take into context, who are we talking about here? Are we talking about a disease, inflamed, diabetic, obese person? Or are we talking about somebody like us? How much difference is it going to make? It's a bunch of BS. It's just some influences saying.
Well, and just to add to your point, like a guy like you, MOTS-C, will you see much difference? I mean, there's not much that you can work, right?
Well, so I'm on MOTS-C. I'm like 3 weeks in. My endurance.
Yeah, I was about to say.
So for you, endurance, like
why? When I do boxing training, my tap out point is twice what it used to be. Yes.
It basically is exercise in an injection.
Yeah.
It's exercise in an injection because you're improving your ability. So it's activating MPK, you're improving insulin sensitivity, you're generating a lot more mitochondria. You're feeding the system to produce more energy units, right? And this is where most people get around. Adderall, right? Pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, Ritalin, right? Cocaine. Those are all sympathomimetic drugs, which is you're pressing the fight or flight button. But if you use it once because I underslept and I have a conference I need to listen, I'll take maybe 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams to activate that fight or flight so I can focus and actually perform. But if you keep pressing,
bypassing the system a little bit there.
It's a biohack, but it's not the healthiest biohack because if you continuously do and you keep pressing that fight or flight button, you're gonna completely shut down your system, adrenal fatigue. You're just shutting down. You're activating your survival mechanism. So most people use these substances or pre-workouts. Any pre-workout for us personally, our philosophy is trash. The pre-workout should be fixing the cell and the cell should produce a pre-workout for you. If you feel like you need a pre-workout, something is wrong. Off. Something is off because me and my brother perform at elite level and we don't use any pre-workout. I will tell you a good pre-workout coffee. You could definitely use coffee.
But before we move on, because I wanted to just kind of touch on the MOTS-C and what I meant about for a guy like you, because it's being oversold like, oh, MOTS-C will burn a ton of fat. I mean, for a guy like you, it's not going to do much of that. But when it comes to endurance,
I think it's part of the fat burn, though.
And when he said about units, it's not about mitochondrial output, it's mitochondrial units that produce. So that's why you feel that endurance.
Yes.
Right? That kind of like you're it's almost like you raise the ceiling on your endurance.
Yes.
And the studies we have available, for example, you can use it on a diabetic patient to drive down their insulin from 50 down to like 10 within like weeks, or their hemoglobin A1C down a couple points, which is, it takes 3 months. You can bring it down because think about it. The MOTS-c is generating more mitochondria. The more mitochondria, the more energy. The more energy, the more consumption of everything in the body. So if you're doing the right things, your insulin should level out. And when we talk about fat burning, for example, if we see on a lab an insulin more 5, but let's say it's over 6, don't talk to me about fat loss because you're swimming against current. If your insulin needs to be at bay for you to be in fat burning, because insulin is a fat storing hormone. Right. It doesn't really, it's anabolic, but it's also fat storing. So you want to get your insulin ideally under 5, so you're in a fat adaptive state. Now you put in MOTS-c, more mitochondrial units, and you use something like SS31 to rebuild the cardiolipid, because if you rev the engine, you want the integrity of that engine to be held. You know, it's like you basically bolt. It's like having a mechanic come into your engine and clean every day and making sure everything is bolted properly.
So should I just then layer in the SS31 as I'm coming off of MOTS-c if I've already done MOTS-c? I know you said it doesn't matter if it's before or not,
because of the way that SSRI is going to last you a while, so you could run it through the whole. It's going to last you the whole spring. So what you're doing is you're repairing the mitochondria as you go along, because you're producing, like Brody said, a great analogy. Like imagine a Toyota Corolla going 200 miles an hour. You need a Formula One to go 200 miles an hour.
That's where these sympathetics. It's like trying to grab a Toyota. You put NOS in it. You put a turbo, and you're revving the engine. It's gonna pop at one point, dude. Just upgrade the freaking engine. Just upgrade the damn fucking engine. Stop putting all these aftermarket parts to try to make the engine better, right? That's why I rather, if you don't have a Ferrari, don't try to act like you have one, right?
But most people that come from MOTS-c, I'm like, listen, man, unless you're like, morbidly obese, or we have like the patient that we had where he was basically turning from type 2 diabetic to type 1 diabetic, you need intervention. You need intervention. And so MOTS-c becomes a great intervention medication.
But then again, it has its place for cardiovascular training. If you're doing a triathlon, an Ironman, and you're really working on your cardiovascular system, which by the way, we're in spring, you should be emphasizing more on the cardiovascular system. You're still lifting your weights, but it's more emphasized on building up your VO2 max. You're working on that cardiovascular system. So using MOTS-c, I will run it 12 weeks, MOTS-c with SS31, because again, if you produce more mitochondria, but the integrity of the cell is not properly held, you're going to have more electron leakage. And electron leakages cause oxidative free radical. Now you're causing too much inflammation. Now the system is heating up, and that's causing other downstream effects that are messing up your body. So you got to think this. Again, it goes back to the cell. You got to think intelligently inside the cell.
And going to the workout.
Anyway, one more thing. This is where methylene blue comes in. Low dose methylene blue. I'm talking about 5 to 25 milligrams at most, right? Because it's an electron donor, so you're getting more electrical output. And then something like urolithin A, which has clinical evidence to regenerate mitochondria as well, repair it, clean it up. These are substances that support the peptide biological signal, because
the substrates,
right. The MOTS-c is not. How is it making this stuff? You got to give it the materials, right? It's going to signal for a bigger demand, but you got to give it the materials to clean up the garbage, because when you produce energy, when you accelerate your car, you're producing carbon monoxide. Period. End of story.
Metabolize.
Forget Tesla. Just cars that run on fuel, you're going to produce carbon monoxide. You're going to produce an emission. So you want to reduce that emission rate. This is also why before training, cardiovascular training, even anaerobic, because we interviewed Tyler LeBaron, who's basically, to me, the world's most renowned molecular hydrogen specialist. You drink molecular hydrogen before training. So you basically think of molecular hydrogen as a catalytic converter. It's a selective antioxidant. It's picking the bad antioxidants because you need oxidants. It's called the cellular redox.
Wasn't it sparking the glutathione creation in the liver?
So it produces glutathione. So it stimulates 3 enzymes: glutathione peroxidase, catalase, and superoxide dismutase, which they're very potent to get rid of oxidative stress. But you get rid of too much oxidative stress, now you create an imbalance. It's all a freaking balance. And that's why
it's a modulator.
When people say vitamin C, I forget vitamin C. Take molecular hydrogen if you're sick every hour. If you're traveling, take it every 2 hours.
100%.
So I drink that stuff a lot on your guys' recommendation.
I breathe it. We breathe it.
When do you drink it, and how often?
In the morning is the best. Like when I do it in the morning, and there's the study that showed that it was more powerful than caffeine for energy and focus. But I do it in the morning, man, and I feel it. Like I drink it with a whole 8 ounce. One tab,
tab. You don't need
8
to do
ounces of water, and bam.
And we don't like the bottles because the bottles start to break down and they create some they don't work as well. They stop.
There are
at what
some
point
good
do you
ones,
know? But at what point do you know they're starting to break down? So I'd rather take the tablet or get a machine. We bought a machine because Tyler Barron has never stood behind a product. He owns Molecular Hydrogen Institute, MHI. He's the OG. We're MHI too, but he started 2013. So LeBaron, I give you shout outs for that. Anyways, he finally backed up a machine. He's never stood behind any machine. He's like, this is the best machine.
He's a very ethical dude.
Yeah, very ethical.
Very ethical dude.
So I'm like, dude, if this is a machine, I'm buying your machine. So while I'm on the computer, I'm freaking breathing it 1 hour. And 1 hour of this stuff is like taking 2,000 of those tablets.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's like, and again, it does, you can breathe it all day if you wanted to because it's selectively picking the bad ones. Yeah. So it's literally, you're slowing down the aging process, the rusting effect of the body.
Amazing.
Right?
So we get back to the seasons, right? And by the way, when we're talking about the also cycling, so we went from also the exercise, we went for focusing on mobility exercises. Yoga is a great technique. I support it 1,000%.
You keep them all.
Yeah, you keep them all, but you just
moving around.
You prioritize them. So during the spring, you're like, hey, I'm working on my mitochondria, energy. So instead of doing whatever your split is, 3 days of weightlifting and 2 days of cardio, you flip it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
So
You
for
flip it, you
example, I do
prioritize.
2 days of weights, 1 day of cardio. 2 days of weights, 1 day of cardio. My cardio day, sometimes if I'm tired, I'll just walk, right? Now in spring, it's hard to do this, right? Like I want to build. I want to fucking on my muscles. I want people to look at me like, damn, you look amazing. I like the flatter. But at the end of the day, if I wanted to be biologically, universally smart about how biology works, I would be doing 2 days of cardio 1 day. And when I mean 2 days of cardio, you're not doing 2 days of HIIT because your heart rate, your cardiac output, just like muscles, it's you need your heart to rest, right?
Yeah.
So you can do 2 days of cardio, 1 day HIIT, the other day is more endurance. You're going like zone 2. So when we're talking about training, right? When we're talking weights, you're talking about volume, intensity. When we're talking about VO2 max, we're talking about zones, right? So interval training, I'm freaking trying to go to zone 5 until I'm out of breath. Minimum 8 intervals, 30 seconds, sometimes even 60 seconds all out with a 60 to 90 second recovery. You can play with
Great.
it.
It's like so effective, right? Like when you look at, and we'll get into this about heart disease and plaque, and this is a really important subject. When you look at a lot of like long distance athletes, they're infamous for having heart disease and plaque and oxidative stress and all that. So this technique is really short and it accomplishes the same thing, but in a crunched amount of time, and you're minimizing the wear and tear by like 1,000%, right? Because you're not creating that impact. And by doing the elevated, we elevate the treadmill and you just speed it up to like
that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean it's so effective.
And I'll teach you something because Ben Patrick, we're eventually going to interview you. Ben Patrick is the guy knees over toes. I got to give shout out to that guy because I had the clicking and bothering me of the knee. And I started doing his workouts, which he looked at like 140 research papers showing that I used to be a personal trainer. So you always saw never knees over toes. Yeah. When you squat,
that's what you're always told. Never.
Knees should be over toes. I mean, knees should be over ankle, right? Yeah. He's all about, dude, there's no studies showing that knees over toes is bad for you. Yeah. In fact, it actually strengthens all the little intricate muscles around the knee to keep them strong. So I started working a lot on my knees. And on top of it, because I have 3 herniated discs, I can't even put 25 pounds on a rack. So I started doing a lot of knees over toes, pistol squats. So you see how we do on the bench? Like I'll go pistol squat on a bench. I'll sit on my knee, like completely down. My hamstring is sitting on my calf is sitting on my hamstring, even my glute. And from there, I'll come up. And so here's the bench. I'll put a foot forward and a foot back. So I'll come up, forward, up, back.
We'll do that on video.
Yeah, we'll do that eventually. The point is, I worked on my knees so much that now, dude, I feel super confident. When we're jumping off 2-story floors skiing, when I jump, I'm scared if I'm going to hurt my knee, right? If something's going to pop. Now I'm very confident. So because of also learning from our clients, marathon runners, triathletes, you're causing so much wear and tear that I'm like, I don't want to do that. So what I do for my cardio, I put incline. I'll start with a 9, right? And then when I'll like 3 speed, and then I'll go all the way to whatever it goes, right? And this one goes to 15, and I'll go up to 4.5. So I'm like barely almost walking, jogging type of thing. Raise my heart rate. Once I see I'm like at freaking zone 4, zone 5, I bring it down. I bring it down, recover, go back up. And then what I do, half of the training, like 15 minutes I do forward, 15 minutes I walk backwards.
On an incline.
Try walking backwards, because
listen, 30 seconds in, the front of your, like the right on the top of your knee on your quad will burn like hell.
Yeah.
So you got to turn around.
The walking backwards on an incline, not flat, because flat you're not going to really feel the effect. When you're on an incline, you're working. Think about it. You're almost doing a leg extension.
Yeah.
You're doing this constantly, and you're gonna see that your knees start to get really strong.
Yeah.
So we only walk forward, but we don't walk backwards. And walking backwards really strengthens, so you have agility, you have balance.
Right.
I'm all about agility now.
Yeah.
And then this is where also we get into, like, in terms of the spring, you also get into the things like I hate the term, the Wolverine stack. So like BPC, you know, things like TV, 500 or thymosin beta 4. We get into, you could even do like KPB and PEA. So like you could start repairing your gut as well, right? Because you're preparing for now the load that you're going to put, which is anabolic expression in the summer, right? Now you're preparing the body. Remember we talked about the signal, but the receptor has to be ready for that signal. So this is that preparation.
Yeah.
This is that preparation for that signaling, because when summer comes around, right?
Yeah.
This is when you're doing your highest anabolic expression.
Fucking step on the pedal.
This is when you're pressing the gas. Right. This is when you're really showing off your stud
Curls
status.
for the girls.
Exactly. Stud status.
This is where you're now emphasizing really on volume, strength, hypertrophy, right? You're still doing your cardio, but now you bring it down a notch on the cardio. You're emphasizing a lot more on anabolism and growth. But because you've prepped the system for it. Right? And this is where CJC EPA comes in. So when people say there's Semorelin, throw it out the window.
Semorelin, hexarelin, like there's some there's much better technology now that it's just they're not worth it.
And no, we've noticed again they raise cortisol and prolactin, and
you don't want that.
You see your HRV drop, heart rate goes up. They're first generation peptides. We like to call them. And then so CJC EPA is usually like the gold standard. You didn't see results with Semorelin. I gained 10 pounds of lean muscle.
I think I lost belly
Tessa.
fat with it.
You definitely
burns
for sure. I mean, that's what a lot of most of the studies show.
But I didn't feel that fitness benefit in the gym that I get from CJC.
Right. But so, for example, when I go into summer, I'm going to go 12 weeks Semorelin because I know that works really well for me. I really saw 10 pounds of lean muscle go up. I'm like, I've never seen that with CJC. And then you also have to consider every peptide, specifically growth hormone peptides, have a ceiling effect.
Yeah.
So, for example, they translate for you to get 1 to 2 IUs of growth hormone, you would have to inject anywhere from 100 to 200 micrograms of EPA. Let's just say it usually is per body weight. So no more than 200 mics of ipamorelin, no more than 100 mics of CJC. But think of, this is the best analogy I got, but when you flush a toilet, what happens? You can't flush it 2 seconds later. You got to wait like 30 seconds so it fills up. Same thing happens in your hypothalamus, pituitary, anterior pituitary. You're secreting, right? You're squeezing these growth factors, but they're lasting. Ipamorelin's half-life is about 2 hours.
And your liver has to pump it out.
CJC is about 30 minutes. CJC is a growth hormone releasing hormone. So let's actually define that really fast. Growth hormone releasing hormones are working more at the pituitary upper level, pituitary and hypothalamus, secreting growth factors.
Produces.
It secretes more growth factors. So eventually you can get the somatotropic cells into the liver, and then the liver outputs IGF-1, which is like saying you're free testosterone. I don't care how much growth hormone you have here. If it's not being outputting it through the liver, then it's like having low free testosterone. It's not biologically active.
So you could have really high total testosterone, but have really low testosterone, right?
Free T,
free T.
That's all you feel.
The name to the game is to combine a GHRH with a GHRP. So another analogy is the GHRH fills the tank, and then the GHRP, which is, so let's just categorize them. So growth hormone releasing hormones would be tesamorelin, CJC, semorelin. On the GHRPs, you have hexarelin, ipamorelin, right? So combining a GHRH with a GHRP is ideal because one is filling the tank, the other one is burning the gas, right?
And you could also have, like, for example, with us, we have like liver, like just our livers, or I don't know what's going on. but we have low IGF-1 BP3 just genetically,
which is the main carrier for growth for IGF-1.
And usually that it's because of liver issues. So like you want to have this combination because you can have a lot of production, but if your liver is not efficient in pumping it out, then you get this total testosterone-free testosterone analogy.
Right. So you use, again, this is where you have to dabble with these peptides and see what works for you.
See which one works.
So if it's your first time, I would tell you 12-week block, do maybe the first 6 weeks CJC EPA. We on our prescriptions 2 to 3 times per day, 5 to 7 times per week.
3 days is a little, just for clarity, 3 days is a little challenging because you also have to time food
3 times per day.
3 times per day because a little bit technical because there's food like you can't eat before or after. Before after insulin competes for the receptor, right? So you have to be.
Define that. It's not too difficult. Well, I guess for me it's not too once you understand the science.
No, just from a scheduling
for me it's morning and evening.
Morning and evening is easy. Yeah. That's easy.
The point is this: CJC and EPA. I mean, at most, I've seen somebody's IGF-1 increase 80, maybe 100 points. Tesamorelin has been shown to increase up to 181 points, your IGF-1 level. And then there's again, the IGF-BP3, which is the main carrier. Dr. Mark Gordon, he wants to see an IGF-BP3 of 5,000 or above. We can't get it above 3,000. We've tried boron, we tried quercetin, everything in the
liver
freaking
detox
book. You can pussy, and this is where the genes come in. Right? This is where it has to be a genetic thing. We both cannot move from there, and it can't be. We're super freaking healthy. Yeah. But the point is, if you have a very low IGF-BP3, it means that you don't have the shuttle, the bus to actually circulate the growth hormone. And on top of it, growth hormone's half-life is about 20 minutes. IGF-1 is about 10 to 12 minutes. But when you combine it with a high IGF-BP3 and it binds to it, it can go up to 10 to 15 hours. It has a longer effect. And the other thing, the timing thing, the reason when you inject this stuff, you want to wait at least 30 minutes. Let's define one more thing, half-lives. So typically every drug has 5 half-lives. So if you start taking a drug like testosterone, it takes 5 half-lives to reach its peak. So let's just talk about cypionate testosterone for a second. Cypionate's half-life, depending on how you metabolize it, 7 to 8 days. So for me to reach my peak, let's just say 7 days, 7 times 5 is 35 days, typically 6 weeks. So if you adjust a dose, 3 weeks into it, you tell me, I'm not feeling it, you got to wait 6 weeks. It reaches its altitude to measure how you feel, and then you can titrate. So
that's what we like to test when you first start on hormones. We like to start around that 6th to 7th week.
Right.
So you got to take into consideration what's the ceiling cap for the peptide, right? CJC EPA is you're not going to go too high. Tessa, you can go really high, but then the half-lives have to do a lot with it. That's why something like CJC, since you can't get such high levels, but if I can sustain a high level throughout the day, remember, just so you guys know, you get about 3 to 6 pulses of growth hormone per day, right? Especially the sleep and post-workout are the biggest ones. So usually before bed, post-workout or pre-workout if you want to focus more on fat burning, post-workout if you want more anabolism. The point is you want to wait 30 minutes. Once you take it, once you inject, wait 30 minutes for the intracellular effect to take place. Once that effect has taken place, you can eat and it's not going to stop the downstream effect that it's signaling for, right? Yeah. But if you eat between those 30 minutes, insulin goes up. No. Insulin, like growth factor 1, they share about 50% of the homology, which is just a structure of it. So it interferes. They're kind of competing for the same receptor. You're trying to trump the effect of insulin. That's why you want to time it as best as possible, right? So if you
if you work out of your house, like this becomes an issue, right? That's why what we're saying is like the twice a day for the average listener works very well, right? Because you do it before you leave home, you do it before you go to bed, and you don't got to worry about it. The 3, I mean, if you're a competitor and you're like trying to like really crank up the system and all that, the 3 times a day, it's a commitment.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a commitment.
For sure.
You know? And then you got to, like you said, you have to time it based on the half-life. You got to understand the half-life.
And you also have to understand another term, which is pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics is the life of the drug. It's measuring how long does this drug last in my body.
In a vacuum.
Right. And then pharmacokinetics is the way your body is going to metabolize, digest, and process that drug. So
everybody's like a dog laying on the couch is going to metabolize testosterone cypionate much lower than someone who's like cranking. You know? Right?
This you see how it gets complicated? All these variables, like
well, this also
measure all of this.
This also played into not combining multiple peptides in one syringe, right? Because
So that's another, that we can get into that. Just for the sake
I
of,
think the general advice, like without getting too deep, is just like just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
And I used to be,
And I still do some of it, like the BPC and TB 500. I still combine those. Like I don't, it's not a hard and fast rule, but mostly
the way I would say you could is if it already comes combined.
Pegylated.
You have to pegylate it. You have to have the technology to properly sequence them and connect them so they're stable.
Yeah.
Because if
Because
they're
just because they're swimming in the same fluid doesn't mean that they're going to be delivered and they can like counteract and fragment. So what you want, we use a lab that actually, when they do like a CJC EPA, by default, they pegylate it. They build a bridge, a mechanical bridge so that when you inject the peptide, it goes in structured.
got it.
and this is where I used to be of the theory, because we've asked compounding pharmacists.
Yeah.
Could I make some? Half say half say don't. Where I was always sitting is it works. Why? Melanotan too. Remember, I'm white as Casper, guys. I'll show you a picture later, but white as Casper. So when I would mix them, I would still get tan. I noticed that. But with time, I started noticing sometimes I would just inject it by itself. I would notice I would get more tan when I was using it alone. When I would mix them, it wasn't the same effect.
There's pH issues, man. There's so much stuff like protein folding. There's a lot of technicality on how the manufacturing process. But and you'll get some people that say, well, they're in the same family, so you can do it. Well, but if they're not bridged together, then you have two compounds that are kind of random.
So there's a very special place called the farm at Okefenokee. It's a 1,000-acre regenerative farm community about 45 minutes northwest of Jacksonville, Florida. The farm is a completely off-grid community. It has total food, water, and energy independence. Everything on the farm is 100% organic, and it even features wild boar and bear hunting. The farm at Okefenokee is right next to the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, where you can do camping and canoeing tours. So if you're like me and you're interested in the self-sovereign lifestyle, then you can get your own lot on the farm at Okefenokee if you tell them that I sent you. Once you get a lot, you can build one of 3 custom cabin options. So if you value freedom, self-sovereignty, and living in touch with nature, then join me and my family. We have lot number 21, and we're going to be building a cabin there starting December 2025. To learn more about the farm at Okefenokee, go to okefarm.com and make sure to tell them that I sent you.
So summer is
Anabolism
growth-focused anabolism.
mTOR, double mTOR.
And there's one more peptide I would throw in there is melanotan 1 or 2.
Okay.
The reason for it is you're exposed to more UV rays, right? So you want to create a chameleon sort of protective mechanism for your body. Instead of putting toxic oxybenzone sunblocks, you use your body's natural melanin production in order to, the more melanin, the more protective from the sun.
So it makes you more tan and gives you protection.
Yeah, for sure. And another little biohack that most people don't know is don't wear sunglasses on the beach.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
One more shot. I'm going to take one more shot.
And
the reason why you don't wear the glasses, I haven't really seen evidence on this, but it makes just sense. Your eyes, so we have intrinsically photosensitive ganglion melanopsin cells, which stimulate the retinal neurons in your eyes that regulate sleep-wake cycles through light and darkness. So when you get light, serotonin; when you get darkness, melatonin production. So that regulates every biochemical signaling pathway there. So if you're blocking the sun and you're getting a lot of UV, your body is not producing. What do you think?
Your body thinks you're in the shade.
So you're being more exposed to what we don't know. But the point is, you want some light to hit your eyes, or at least have natural light, so your body can adapt to it. What do you think? Like when you're in the sun, you become darker. It's like we're like chameleons. We adapt. Our bodies are constantly adapting.
For fair-skinned people, like don't wear sunglasses on the beach.
I would love to show you guys what I'd look like.
So the melanotan, even for me, like freckly, I'm naturally kind of white. I'm tan because of the
white.
Look. This is my real color.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait,
year round.
Look at that right there.
Yeah, I don't.
Zoom in?
I don't think
You can zoom. No, he told me you can zoom in.
It's kind of overexposed. Can you turn the brightness down on your?
We can also
You can
just
put it on
send
the-
me the
okay,
photo and
right.
we'll cut it in.
But the point is, look at this. That's injecting.
It's working. now.
That's injecting every day for 20 something days. No sun, right? So if you can see
So that's
it,
a 20-day difference.
yeah, 20-day difference of
Maybe a
injecting.
different person.
Yeah. So
No, it's like if you want to get like a golden boy tan, like we advise, hey, I mean, either
That was the Miguel dose.
yeah, because if you're like super fair skin and you start injecting melatonin, there's like a weird like
your lips turn
like a
weird, and you get more
transitionary
freckles.
period where you kind of start looking gray. It's weird, and females get freaked out because it starts to like enhance moles, and even their labia start to get darkened. So they're like, right. So you want to kind of get in the sun, get a little bit of color, and then start to like
It
prime it.
accentuates spots, like dark spots and molds, and like when you
freckles
have them,
too.
Yeah, freckles. It definitely accentuates them. So what we learn is go to a tanning bed or go on a Hawaiian weekend, get a nice base tan, and then do the maintenance dose.
And then the
right?
maintenance dose,
And this is so for example, 100 to 500 micrograms. Some people, I used to need 500 micrograms twice a week. Now I'm down to like 200 mics, and I'm maintaining the color, injecting sometimes once a week.
Maintenance dose.
Right? I just
Maintenance dose.
stay around, stay all year round like this.
Okay, I haven't tried that one yet. I think I actually did try, but I didn't like the way my gut feel at the time, so I stopped. I took one.
It does
Usually,
hit your
yeah,
gut.
usually it's weird. Like if I do it,
But for example, he needs to do melanotan 1. So melanotan 2 stimulates the melanocortin receptors. So you have 1, 2, I think up to 4. Melanotan 2 stimulates all of them. So it can cut your hunger. It transiently gives you spontaneous erections.
I've never felt any sexual anything from it.
I did. They call it the Barbie doll peptide because you tans, it cuts your hunger, and it gives you a boner. And then for him, melanotan 1 is specifically just skin related, but it's more mild.
I see.
Yeah, because if I
tan you as
inject
much.
melatonin too, dude, I will go black.
Okay.
You know, like
One injection is freaking
super
black.
dark,
Right.
right? So, but I don't get any like sexual arousal from it. You know, I don't get anything. You know, I've never had a problem with erections, but I don't feel like there's a difference there.
So do you still do the tanning one, or do you just?
I don't like. Sometimes I steal it when I see it at the house and I just do it. But it's not a peptide that I do because I'm naturally dark, right?
see.
And so I don't. It's
When
not
we
a
go
pep-
surfing or kiteboarding, if
Yeah.
I'm white, 2 hours of sun, I'm gonna peel the next day. Or maybe 4 hours of sun. I'll probably possibly peel, but when I'm dark like this,
You're good.
I'm good.
That makes sense.
So I don't have a need for that peptide as often because I'm already dark.
All right, that's a good segue to my question.
Yes.
So,
All right, let's go. Come on.
Sometimes for getting jacked and tan.
Yes.
What are the other like CJC IPA has been really good for me muscle building.
Yeah.
What other peptides are really good for the anabolism muscle building?
IGF-1 LR3.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, and you know, remember, so summer, you have give or take 12 weeks, right? So that's what Miguel said. Hey, start with 6 weeks of CJC and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, try IGF-1 for the other 6 weeks, you know?
Right.
Or, you know, you could also do like CJC, Tessa, and a short spurt of IGF-1 because for some people, IGF-1 can be very heavy, like a lot of stimulation.
Right.
So it could actually... I mean, you know, speaking to Mark Gordon, I could actually start shutting you down, right?
Okay.
So, like,
Your
I've
natural
done.
production, you mean?
Well, you'll see decreased numbers on your IGF-1.
The reason is it half-life is almost like 24 hours.
Yeah.
You don't need to inject it multiple times per day.
Right.
Once a day is enough. And it's basically synthetic growth hormone. It's instead of being growth hormone, is diluted. What do you say? Growth hormone, IGF-1 is growth hormone is what IGF-1 becomes when it gets older.
Right.
So it converts into IGF-1. So IGF-1 LR3 is a long release.
And some
so
people-
you get an elevation. When you get an elevation for too long, there's a negative feedback loop. Remember the cortisol awakening response? The higher you go, you're going to shut down at one point.
Right.
So you don't want to dabble more than 6 weeks with the studies that I've seen after 6 weeks, you just plateau.
And for you guys, you said your liver doesn't convert well to IGF-1. So is it better for you guys? People like
No,
you to
we don't
take
have
that?
a good carrier for it. And when it binds to IGF-BP3, it extends the life.
Okay.
And the effects are constantly taking place, right?
Right.
So we don't have a good shuttle for it. And so the half-life is shortened because of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, right? Like, we get into the subject about which peptide works better, right? Like, CJC, I feel, and in the mirror, I feel like I get the best results. But when I test it and I do my IGF-1, it doesn't move. Then I do testosterone, which I enjoyed, I guess, but I didn't feel the same effects that I did with CJC EPA. Yet my IGF-1 is higher, and my IGF-1 is very stubborn, right? So it's like, what gives?
And people do stack those together.
You don't
IPA, Tessa?
No,
you never do. Remember, this is why we define growth hormone releasing hormones. You don't do CJC and Tessa because they're both growth hormone releasing hormones. I wish in the future they make CJC by itself, because I would like to combine Tessa with
EPA.
Tessa with EPA.
Yeah.
So a lot of pharmacies will make a 6 milligram with 500 micrograms of EPA morenin, but EPA after 200 micrograms hits its ceiling top.
Yeah.
Right. So when you dose the 2 milligrams, you're getting 500 micrograms of EPA, and it's too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but then
if you have them separate, you can inject Tessa and then the EPA.
Yeah. Okay. But then you have some guys that report back, when they do IGF-1 or R3, they're like, dude, my pumps. I feel the strength, So that's why you have to play with these three, the CJC, EPA, Tessa, and IGF-1. You play with them to see which ones work for you, but never mix them together.
But then again, remember half-lives. You eventually on ChatGPT put half-lives, because CJC and EPA, since it's shorter, some people report better fat burning if you inject it before working out.
Right.
You get more anabolism when you do it post-workout. If we're talking about IGF-1 or 3, because it's a long release, it doesn't matter. Just inject it in the morning, go train whenever you want. You're still going to have high levels, right? Yeah. Tessa, the studies were done before bedtime at 2 milligrams. I think the half-life is 30 minutes or 2 hours. I forgot, but it raises IGF-1 the most. And the other thing, if you're going to be dabbling for the first time with these, like if you do 6 weeks and then 6 weeks another one, make sure your training volume is the same. You're not changing the volume and the intensity of the workout, because then it's another variable that's
another variable
right?
that you got to measure.
This is where you have to be in tune with your body, right? I know, okay, I got to 12 reps. Okay, I want it basically fatigue at 8. I got to go up 10 pounds on each dumbbell, right? Some people don't have that intuition. That's why it takes time.
Yeah.
Training.
But also, and then the deeper point is this, because we talked about anabolism, and it's anabolism is cool, right? Muscle, all that stuff, growth, all that. But then we get into the deeper subject, like, why should we be doing this? Should we be just doing this for muscle? Well, it's kind of like we get into the argument of the thymus gland, like how important is your longevity in the perspective of your immune system. So, and I think we talked a little bit about this on our last segment, is we all, Miguel said, we get 3 pulses, but the biggest pulse comes at night, right? This is when we're designed to secrete the most amount of growth hormone. Master hormone comes in, repairs, grows, all this stuff, right? Previous to 30-year-old, right? Like, pre-30, that spike looks like a Mount Everest. It's like a very aggressive
and
spike.
the amplitude is also the amplitude is how long it stays up before it drops,
and how high it goes, right? So when you're young, bam, right? After 30, and now it becomes like a Tennessee hill, right? And then post 50, it's like whoop, right? So you want to use these growth hormone secretagogues to kind of stimulate the pituitary, right? To flex its muscle so it doesn't atrophy. So it's not just about making muscle, it's about exercising these glands to fight off what we talked about, the stages of aging, the hallmarks of aging.
And then one last little detail. This is where, again, there's subcategories and it's infinite, right? Like BPC, most people just talk about what? Gut healing and reduction inflammation, regeneration, but it also activates the growth hormone receptors and ligaments, tendons, and muscles.
So it stacks well.
It enhances those receptors, so you get more locked in and you get better results, right?
And you're recovering at the same time. So it's kind of like a very synergistic effect.
I would inject it like post-workout a lot of times. That whole thing of, you don't want to reduce inflammation after workout. It regulates, it modulates, meaning it's like a thermostat. If you cold plunge, it's different because you're really forcing the body to shut down inflammation.
You're shocking the system.
Here, it's modulating that inflammation. You need the inflammatory response to activate satellite cells, which are like the stem cells of the freaking muscle, to grow. But you want to modulate that inflammation. If you spill over to too much inflammation, now you're getting less return on your investment.
Got it. I've also heard, I don't know if this is correct, maybe it was FOXO4 is good for muscle building as well, and then
MK677,
which is technically not a peptide.
It's like a polypeptide, right?
They put it in the peptide category because it stimulates ghrelin, but you see there, it increases your cortisol by 2.4 times. Studies have shown. I got this from Dr. William Seeds, and it also can cause nerve cell involution.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It can affect your brain. And people stay on this for like 3 months.
This
is the MK or the
MK MK677. You can stay on it for up to 3 months just because we want to be on the reservative side because there's not enough studies. 2 months.
2 months.
Don't do more than so. And this also depends on your somatotype.
Yeah.
If you're an ectomorph, very skinny, you want to do MK677. You want to put an IGF-1 or 3 in there so you can pack on muscle, right?
And your strength significantly increases on MK677.
That's what I heard.
You get insatiable hunger. Insatiable, it becomes like orgasmic to eat.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not,
Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, so it works through that pathway, and that's why you.
I mean, you could use it great for summer. Right? But
No, I mean, I just because I haven't found like muscle building peptides other than the CJC IPA for me.
Yeah.
But I had a friend tell me about the MK677.
Yeah, if
He
you're
was
an
like, he had to
ectomorph-
stop because he was like,
dude, if you're an ectomorph, if you want to pack on size as an ectomorph, MK677 and IGF-1 are the ones.
Or Tesla.
okay.
Right. So
that's summer.
That's summer, and then we go into fall, and then now we're connecting back, right? What happens during fall? Well, we get into the flu season. So is thymosin alpha-1 a good peptide to kind of bring back into the picture? Of course, right? Because
Or
you want
thymulin as well.
yeah,
which
because
is
you
an
want to go
immunomodulatory.
into the winter. Of, you want to be super resilient in the winter, but that takes time. So the fall is when you start, right? And also, what happens? It's really interesting when it happens with fall. Like we get. Thanksgiving and the stuff, and you get the cold, so people pack on more nutrients, and we technically eat like crap, and so then we get sick, right? So this is also a time where we introduce the GLPs. Like this is a great time to do. I mean, look, some people need to be on GLPs for a bunch of seasons, right? Because we're trying to.
I stay on it all year round.
But no, I mean,
I don't want to deal with the food noise.
Yeah, for someone that needs to drop the weight and we need to like change behavioral habits, that we extend the seasons, right? But for if you're trying to be like technical, this is a great time to bring in a tirzepatide, a retatrutide, things like that, so you can control your response to the environment because you're gonna go to Thanksgiving dinner. You're gonna go to all these things, and so this is a time where you can aid yourself by having that and cleaning yourself out.
Modulate your response to food, basically.
Yeah, and you can bring back the epithalon too, and the FOXO4, and so now you're working on detoxing and also because you did a lot of growth, and when you do a lot of growth, you also produce toxic metabolites. So you start cleaning that out, right?
GLPs, you could have. I mean, I think if I'm following this rhythm, I would also want to use them in the spring because they help me cut weights.
Yeah.
So my appetite's crazy high.
It's really funny that you say that because we didn't get into this because we don't want to get technical, but we discussed this when we were like, wait, hold on a second, but I want to be able to use subcategories in between the seasons to prepare myself from one season to the next.
Depending on what I'm doing.
Depending on what my goals are. So you could use a retatrutide or tirzepatide in the spring to prepare the body for the summer, right? And get that look.
But then again, a lot of studies show low dose for longevity purposes is an anti-inflammatory. It reduces inflammation in the brain. It was first, I think, discovered for like neurodegenerative diseases.
It was being studied for neurodegenerative conditions, but then, kind of like Cialis. The Cialis was a pulmonary thing, and they found out that all the guys didn't want to return the medication. Right. So with tirzepatide, it was the same thing. Like they started, they were using it for neurodegenerative illnesses and conditions, and they realized that people were losing weight, so it became sexier to sell it as a weight loss medication.
And then there you can start throwing anecdotally peptides like LL37, which is an antimicrobial, VIP, which modulates also inflammation. Just, we still don't know exactly what it's all doing, but maybe, it doesn't cost you anything to throw them in there in that fall.
And you could also do like MOTS-C winter into the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, but the point is summer, you're transitioning, consolidating, getting ready to go into hibernation to reset everything, right? To clean out, to get ready for the next year again.
And now we complete the circle.
Yeah.
Right? And again, not a maxim, but it is a scheduling system that kind of makes sense of it all. Sure. And it also gives you an opportunity to time yourself and say, hey, I'm gonna do the rainbow of peptides to address with the really the biggest ROI for peptides for us is, addressing the hallmarks of aging. Because these are signals, right? That we're losing over time.
Yeah.
So, and that completes now the circle of, and when we're talking about the fall, in terms of fasting and, eating, because who doesn't like to have grandma's pecan pie at Thanksgiving? Yeah. So I have a strategy for the fall that it's the prepare or makeup mechanism, right? So if I know that I'm going to go to Thanksgiving dinner and I want to eat and I want to, I don't want to be the one that tells grandma, no, I can't have your pecan pie. I'm fasting and all that crap, so I prepare. I say, okay, I'm going to fast all day so that I can break my fast at Thanksgiving and just not worry about it, not think about it. Right, because now I can take the load, or the opposite,
and fast the next day,
or. So let's say that you couldn't prepare. You get a guy, you get a friend from out of town. Hey, Rob, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's take out dinner. And you're like, oh man, I've been eating like pig already. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the restaurant, be conscious, whatever. I'm gonna eat whatever I want, because you also don't want to be the guy at the restaurant and be like, oh no, I can't eat that. I'm on a diet. You want to be the guy at the restaurant that people say, how are you able to eat that and stay like that, right? So the makeup mechanism is the next day, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to fast aggressively. I might fast 24 hours.
Now,
and then you give
I'm doing that right now, by the way.
Now,
we had my birthday dinner last night. I'm fasting today.
Yeah. Well,
which, by the way, thank you for inviting us.
Of course.
Honor, man.
It's great to have you guys.
I'll caveat with, if you want to do it the right way, you break your fast maybe an hour before with a bone broth or something, because since you haven't had food.
Yeah, you dealt with that last night, right?
Last night.
Yeah.
So for the listener, I did Rob did it over the weekend. I did it during the week.
Yeah.
We did a 3-day fast, a water fast.
Yeah, I tapped out at 2 days, but yes.
I felt fantastic. And then because of life circumstances, I'm like, oh man, I got to go eat dinner with Rob, and I'm going to break my fast at the restaurant, which is not the best place to break a fast, right?
Seed oils,
because the seed oils and the stuff, and you want to break it lightly. A broth is
and
a great
the
way
whole
to do it.
analogy behind it is your metabolism. When you go at least 20 hours without eating, it goes to sleep. So the mucin lining, which is the mucus that protects the intestinal lining, thins out.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden you put rice, bean, and a bunch of processed seed oils and a bunch of processed ingredients, inflammation.
Wait, let me just give you, because I didn't share this with you guys, because this has happened to me before. When I broke my fast, I knew I was in the wrong place, because immediately my palate became inflamed. And I was like, oh man, this was seed oils, this was a sauce, sugar, something was in the food that it just, and it's a restaurant. They have umami.
Spicy curries, probably,
spicy
right?
curry, so it inflamed my palate.
Yeah.
And then guess what happened the next day? I got a little, diarrhea, loose stool. My stomach was a little, it was manageably upset. But so yeah, breaking the way that you break your fast is really important.
Yeah, bone broth, something to just lightly wake up your metabolism, not with a punch in the face.
Nudge it.
Nudge it.
All right, so I think it's time to step it up, and this is where you need willpower.
Just to kind of recap it for the listener. So that's the
signals. Pathways, which are still signaling stuff. Yeah. If you don't follow those laws, you're gonna suffer the consequences of impaired hallmarks of aging, and the more you damage those, the faster you age, and then that ultimately leads to a dysfunctional cell. Right. If your cells are dysfunctional, everything else is going to be dysfunctional. Period. End of story. So, if you follow the pathways properly and you follow the seasons the circadian rhythms, then you're working with your biology. Yeah. And this is not bro science. This is the best evolutionary scientific, medical science we can glue together based on how
the science.
Yeah, it's an art and a science.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's a little bit of a manifesto, because there is no exact law around it, right? So, but I think that organizes it for the average listener in a way that okay, so if I want to dabble into peptides, don't just do it haphazardly. Don't buy the trends, buy the science. Like, don't buy these one-liner gimmicks, Get into why you're doing it. And I think that as an experience, you're going to gain a lot more from it. The knowledge of it, understanding your body, which ones work better for you or not, right? Like it's a journey. This is reminding me of one of my favorite quotes that I always share on the show, which is, I think it's Francis Bacon, nature to be commanded must be obeyed. So it's like following the rhythms of nature. You're not conquering and controlling nature. You're going with the flow. You're going with it. Yeah, because you have these engineered systems that you can't violate. So we find that when you go with the flow, you get a lot more ROI from every perspective. Upgrading software code that's constantly running. Yeah. So you want to follow it. You want to get with the rhythm as much as you can. And then, and then there's a deeper layer and this is when we go super geek, where we're talking about now, because, all of these peptides that we talked about them from like an off the rack perspective. Like these are peptides that everybody has access to, right? But then, of course, like Miguel said, there's an alphabet, right, that peptides work with, and that alphabet, and like basically influences or works with your genetics. So now we get into a deeper subject. Now we get into like which one works for me specifically, and how do I influence DNA and genes? Because that you get to the coding, like what we said, the AT what is it, ACT, the code that, what did we come up with?
The alphabet code, the alphabet that codes for God's creation.
That's it. So you get down to the code, and that's when things get really wild, right? Because now you're getting to your specific genetic sequencing and code, and you can influence at that level.
Yeah, now you're really doing a surgical precise incision exactly where you need, right? We're now we're dismantling your genetic code, slapping it onto a diagnostic board, looking at every single lever. So like, let's say, I don't know, MOTC is affecting a certain amount of genes, right? But when we're talking about personalized engineered genes, peptides, we're hitting strategically which ones need to be corrected. Because if you can correct all those faulty genes, now the hallmarks of aging, all of that starts to recorrect. So you could still use every peptide we've spoken about, but if you can fix the errors you have in your genetic code, now you augment, you amplify the effect of any peptide. Yeah. So let's say, I don't know, you needed 1 milligram of testosterone, and now maybe 0.1 milligram does a job for you because you've corrected the code.
Yeah. So you lower noise, right? Because genetics is about noise. Like when you start to have errors in DNA, it just creates crosstalk. It creates, it's kind of like walking into a room and everybody's talking. You can get, kind of like dizzy about it. Or you can walk into a room and there's an orchestra and it's a symphony and it's one and it's in unison, right? So
in other words, peptides are short melodies. These peptides we're talking about are long symphonies.
Right.
Very different. Right.
And it's curated to your own bio-individuality.
Yeah. And I think
so what you're doing is just for the listener to understand. So the way that we do that is we do a blood test and urine test. And now we're looking at, you're looking at basically your exome, which is what regulates the functional part of your genome. So this company, what they do is they take the master regulatory genes for each system, right? And the ones that are most influential, right? Because there's a lot of redundancy in the genome as well. So they take the most influential genes of that system and we say, okay, so Rob's system here, he has this gene is expressing upward and it should be down. So we need to
before
down.
You go there, I don't want to do a disservice to Neo 7 Bioscience just for John. So let me just to kind of lay out the base, so we can dabble off of that, we can play off of that. But let's just I defined what the technologies they're using, and it's AI augmented. So Neo 7 uses a patented technology called PBEMA, which stands for Patient-Based Immunomolecular Architecture. This means they map how your entire immune system is wired, your DNA variants, which immune genes are switched on and off or dysfunctional, and which inflammatory molecules your body is producing as a consequence. In simple terms, PBEMA is like plugging your immune system into a diagnostic computer that shows exactly where the glitches, misfires, and weak pathways are. Then they run that immune blueprint through their second patented platform called REVIS with 2 S's, which stands for Recursive Evolutionary Signal Sequencing. This engine designs a personalized peptide sequence that regulates the exact immunopathways PBEMA identified as overactive, underactive, or malfunctioning. And finally, Neo 7 uses a third technology called AHI-driven analytics, which stands for Adaptive Host Intelligence. This system tracks how your biology changes over time, your immune system shifts, inflammation patterns, and pathway corrections. So each new batch of your peptide can be upgraded and refined as your immune system evolves.
And notice how they start with the immune system.
Immunoarchitecture.
They start with the immune system.
And they're looking really at all the genes. We have it's a variable between 50 and 60,000 genes, anywhere from 18 to 22,000 protein coding genes. Protein coding genes are the ones that construct shit. They make stuff, right? Those are the ones that we really feel. The other ones is like an oil change. You don't really feel it, but it's giving you more mileage on the gallon. Right?
So do you end up with like genetically customized MOTC? Genetically
Yeah,
customized?
no, so
It's a sequence that it's a super long sequence of really like amino acids that are very hard to source, by the way. And you know, when you think about the manufacturing process, you know, when you're talking about a manufacturing facility, a lab, or a 503A pharmacy that's buying tesamorelin for the population, they're buying in huge bulks. But these are amino acids that are manufactured, or you know, they're sourced based on, like I said, they sequence your genome. They take it through one of the great, it's the best genetic sequencing company in the world. Reader, like these very high tech readers, right? Where they're reading billions
high
of
definition,
codes,
long sequence
super high
readers.
definition.
So meaning they're focusing in, so there's no typos.
Right.
When you're using short sequencing, short definition, low frequency.
definition,
I
short
forgot how to say it,
sequencers.
but basically you're losing. You're reading from here rather than looking zoomed in at each little freaking pathway and how
So they
everything is.
run these sequencers, and they see everything that you are from a genetic perspective. And they say, okay. And so from there, they have a group of 30 geneticists, and then they look at the map and they say, okay, so this gene is expressing on up and it should be down. Like for example, he has a tumor suppressing genes that are down. You want that up regulated. And so what they do is they map it out and they design a peptide sequence that is unique to just you for the purpose of this regulation up and down of your gene
So
when
you
they
can
want
be
to turn them on.
favorably or unfavorably expressed up or down. So when you're unfavorably expressed, it can be an arrow that's pointing up and it has a number next to it,
Right.
or down with a number. So red means bad,
Yeah.
right? Green means good. So it's how to recalibrate all of these. So some of these peptides don't have names. Remember, there's how you can sequence them is infinite. So some of these don't have names. They're,
So when
they're breed love tagged peptides.
But the question is like, do the custom peptides then have a specific goal or benefit as these other peptides do?
100%.
Like, oh, this
Two
one's
of them.
for
So
increasing endurance or increasing anabolism,
Right.
et cetera.
Well, so they have a couple programs too, right? So one of the programs that they call it their disease program, but when you back up, right, they're looking at all of the pathways where disease can actually enter. So what they're doing is they're reading those systems and they're upgrading the protective mechanism so that you don't get sick. Now, if you have active disease, obviously those protective mechanisms are down. It's kind of like the guards of the castle are asleep.
Right.
So you need to turn them on, right?
And where it gets complicated with now when you're talking disease, so we have in the longevity side, 12 recognized, really 16, but within disease, you have like 35 hallmarks.
Hallmarks of disease.
It's a lot more complex.
Right.
And then you got to use the longevity ones with these, but you can't work on longevity if you're diseased, right? So you got to first manage this before you hit longevity.
So
but wait, one more thing. So because he asked a good question about, is it working on anabolism or so you have inflammatory genes, you have regenerative genes, you have different set of groups of genes. So they categorize them and they see which ones are being under or overexpressed, and then you get peptides that are constantly nudging the system to get it back into place. Yeah. And just for people to understand, the amazing part about these peptides is that this is not like something like MOTC or, you know, I don't know, any peptide that we use that you run for it's cyclically forever. This is about correcting the genetic code that has been damaged through the exposome. Remember, the exposome is the totality of damage we accumulate, which causes immunosenescence. So what you're doing is correcting that. So my brother and I are on the second round. We're about to do our second test, possibly going into, we're fully committed, all in. Meaning I want to see how many rounds is it going to take me to correct my levelers so they're all even keel, right? So every time you get closer, you keep refining it. So it becomes it becomes easier. So if we had
you're
like a
zeroing
30%
in.
gap now, exactly. So we believe that, and this was something we've been discussing back and forth with John, is hey, for guys like us, I mean, how many times do we have to do this? Because these are not cheap therapies.
Yeah.
He's like,
And the reason they're not cheap, that's what I was getting to, is because, like I said, when you're your compounding pharmacy and you're buying testosterone in the gallons or whatever you measure in pounds, with this, it's like, I'm gathering these amino acids. It's a very short supply for you.
Yeah.
So it's N of 1. It's only for one person.
Sure.
It's not for the masses.
It's like a custom suit versus off the rack.
Correct. So
100%.
when they make the peptides for you, nobody else can use these amino acids.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we had somebody who had a 4-stage
Renal
renal
cell
cell carcinoma. He took too long. He got the peptides, passed away, and it's like, what do we do with these peptides? Like, unless you have even if you have the same disease, his gene expression
different.
is still different. Could it help? I'm sure, scientifically, from a logic
Maybe,
perspective,
potentially.
maybe, but we don't know. But they are designed for that specific disease, for that specific
that
genetic
individual.
traits. So this is the type of science we're talking about. But to recap on the point of how many times will you have to do this for somebody who's not diseased, around 3 times. So this is why we're going to go into a third one when we finish. Eventually, retest a couple months later. Let's just say, from an anecdotal evidence that we're seeing, we correct the code. Like, we corrected 98%. You'll never get 100%. I don't think we'll ever get 100%. But let's say we corrected it. We're 98% corrected. If you maintain the lifestyle, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you follow your circadian rhythm, all the tools that we've spoken about, then that may last you 10, 20 years. Because remember, we're aging, so there's those systems can start collapsing. But if you go from correction to, I'm going to go party, not sleep, do a bunch of drugs, you might reverse a lot of the corrections you've done, right?
And remember, when you're changing the code, now let me just be specific, because this is not gene editing. Gene editing is how you grow a tail. Like, this is changing the expression, correcting the expression of the gene at the DNA level.
Or redirecting it.
Yeah, when you correct the expression, then that proliferates, because cells beget new cells that beget new cells, right? So if you correct it, then now you're correcting the whole genealogy of healthy cells.
And maybe you need to do it every 10 years after that, right? Like a little small correction just to keep, if you corrected at 98%, I'm off 4% versus when I started, it was like 45%. Okay, just one round, I'm back in place.
Yeah.
So how long could we live? And this is why when I hear all this, Dave Asper saying, I want to live to 180 and all these, and I don't hear them, we don't hear them talking about this technology. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are, even Brian Johnson, when we met him in our VIP group, we're like, hey, do you know about Neo-7 Bioscience? He's like, I have no idea what that is. I'm like, dude, you talk about everything you're doing and you're not correcting at the very core of everything, which is your DNA. How? So your DNA transcribes RNA, which is the information that stimulates proteomics, which is proteins. Proteins stimulate metabolomics, which is metabolites. Metabolites can go into microbiomics, which is your microbiome, and that goes into exposomics, which is the exposure of the environment. It never ends.
It's insane,
right?
So
they're called the omics, by the way. Omics is genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and there's many of them.
So from a practical perspective, and I could just tell you from my experience, because everybody always wants to go, oh, what do you feel? I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, I feel like, kind of like the wheels of justice spin slow. The wheels of DNA spin slow as well, because you're going down to the tiny little wheels that spin. So it takes time for the boat to turn based on a tiny little nudge that you do here, right? So, we got into this concept when we started to do this, like longevity. How do you measure longevity? And for you, it's like, okay, like fast forward the tape 30 years. You're now 70. What would you give me to be able to feel?
And look,
let's just say feel in terms of energy, mental awareness, cognition, and just your sense of being, if you could feel the way that you feel right now.
Yeah, I mean,
most people would say everything.
Yeah, it's
right?
priceless.
It's priceless, right? And so now the really exciting thing for us now is that we're now at a point in modernity that we have access to therapies where we can plant the seeds for that into the future. Because remember, we talked about cells begetting new cells, new cells. So now we get to plant the seeds of longevity now for real and recode the system for longevity so that we can have that and not give up everything, but only a fraction of that everything.
There's an interesting game of chase here too, that if you can extend your longevity and be feeling 40 when you're 70, well, the technology is also advanced for 30 years. So like, who knows what's going on then that you can then maybe kick the can another 30 years.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this and my what like when it came full circle for me, and by the way, it was funny because when we started it, this was like a 9-month therapy, right? We did the peptides in about 6 months. Then I walk into his office. I'm like, hey man, you feeling anything? And he's like, nothing. And I'm like, me neither, right? And so we were like, how are we gonna explain this stuff? And then one day I came home, I injected because these are single vial doses, and I injected what I'm supposed to inject, dude. And I got this awful reaction, like what I considered was tachyphylaxis. Like I got an allergic reaction. My hands started to itch. I had to get in the shower. I felt like I was gonna pass out. I called John. I'm like, hey man,
Anaphylactic.
Anaphylactic. Sorry. I felt like I went into anaphylactic shock, man. And he's like, we hit the target. I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's selling me. This guy's selling me, man. There's no way I can explain this to a patient. And I'm freaking out myself. He's like, dude, I guarantee you, we've hit the target. Now this is when you nudge back. Like this is where you fall back and you start back off, reduce the dose, and I guarantee you won't feel the face. So I reduced the dose like 5 units at a time until it was like 5 units over, I would get the reaction. 5 units under, and I got no reaction. Then we did our test and we did our follow-up. And it was like 150, 140% improvement in the targets that we were going after, like oxidative stress, clotho production, all these things that we were trying to target. We got significant improvement. And I'll never forget, man, I was on a ski lift and I was like, and it was at the end of the vacation. We had done 21 days, 7 mountains. I mean, this was like driving 12 hours here, driving 6 hours, sleeping 4 hours, jumping off of helicopters. It was just intense. And the last day I took it by myself and I was like, I'm just going to go ski fast speed by myself. And I was on the lift. It was 4:00 and I felt fucking amazing. And I was like, dude, and this is where kind of like the whole picture, right? Everything that we've talked about in these 2 segments for these, these 2 podcasts that we've done. We started with the hormones, the nutrients, the seeds for the soil. Then we started to talk about peptides, all this stuff. And then we started to, when we talk about like influencing DNA, and now you get this state of being, you get this experience of youth. I'm 45, man. I'm going 65 miles an hour down a mountain. You need to be all there physically, emotionally, mentally, right? And my connection to the sport, the technique, just my passion for it, my energy to do more. It was, more than it was when I was 19.
Amazing.
So this is when we get to, so that's when people ask us about peptides, longevity and stuff like that. It's like, dude, it's
And that's what people are going for.
the whole world.
Yeah.
I mean, if we ask, I would always start with this technology because you correct whatever bugs. It's kind of like never turning our computer off for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's going to slow down. So this is a reboot of the system. And now you can start adding tools to make it even better. Software code, right?
Yeah.
But unless you correct what you can't see, the invisible, this is where it comes. How do you know you got 100% response to that peptide? How do you know you maxed it out, right? So that's why for us, if you can start with the core, which is personalized therapy, precision genetics therapy, you start there and then you dabble with the rest.
Yeah. And that's the future, man.
And by the way, wait, so we've done disease with it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
The last thing you said. This, what do we call this? This type of therapy?
Neo7
Neo7.
Bioscience
Neo
is the
7. Okay.
company.
You're saying do that first before the testosterone,
Yeah.
before the nutrition, before
Well,
all
if
the
you
things.
can't, you're
If you
correcting
can.
the code.
No,
okay.
here's what we're saying.
Because I thought we were doing the
No,
opposite.
no,
It's
no,
like
yeah,
do
yeah,
all the
but
basics, then the peptides,
let's-
then this thing's at the end.
Let's
Well,
correct
at
that.
least, yeah.
Let's correct
the
that.
lifestyle and the supplements, that for sure first.
Sure.
That's the lowest hanging fruit,
Right.
right?
But if based on the 10
but
years.
once you get into peptides, you would consider
once
this
we,
first.
and based on the 10 years that we've seen the patterns and the laws and the path and all that stuff, right? When we consider everything, if we could go back 10 years and be like, start with this first so we can correct all the
Right.
signaling and the pathways and make it super clean,
Yeah.
it's an amazing start.
And then
It
does
just-
that maybe make the other peptides more effective for you?
100%.
100%.
Okay, I see.
Remember, you're correcting the hallmarks of aging. They have the longevity side, they have the disease side, and then they have the spike, the not just the spike protein, but just in general being vaccinated from the C. Some vaccines had mRNA spike protein, which the
Called
best
DNA.
way we can describe it, you know, the little sand dust when you go to the beach, those little spike, I think they're called sand dust that they stick onto and they
Sandmites.
pinch you.
Yeah.
Okay, the mRNA spike protein
It's
is
like that.
exactly like that, and it can attach inside exosomes. I mean, people don't understand this, but exosomes are 30 to 150 nanometers, while a stem cell is 15 to 25,000 nanometers. It's so small that it can get inside your DNA. In fact, what's that terminology called when you can reverse, like one Satoshi, you can fractionalize it and make it even smaller? There's a term that you
Oh,
said.
they call them microsats.
Micros, but there's a term of how that's done. I forgot what it was. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's called reverse transcriptase. Is an enzyme that takes the RNA, the transcribed information, back into the DNA, and it basically plugs its own code into it. So now it's coding for something that you don't know what it's leading to. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let me just show you this right here. This is gonna blow your mind, brother. Right here. Wait, sorry. Right here.
Oh my god. You guys just came out of me. All good information.
What is that?
These are blood clots we have never seen
from
in
the pandemic.
human history.
Yeah.
Never in
Yeah.
hematology, we've never seen this.
Yeah.
So these are like that long and it's growing inside of you.
Yeah.
This technology that he has can see the gene pathways that it basically
signaling for.
recoded itself, like the virus it plugged into you, and chokehold it. Precise peptides that can literally turn off that expression of what the spike mRNA vaccine is doing, and other retroviruses that you can literally turn off and erase it from your genetic code. Wow! And this is why if you've been mRNA spike protein vaccinated, this is not peptides, but I will tell you right now, go get Ebu therapy, which is extracorporeal. Extra is outside of your body. Blood oxygenation, ozonation. So you get hooked on both arms. Your blood is coming out. It's going through a filter. It's catching microplastics, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and it's going through a UV light. Like it's like a micro mini sun that has all the spectrum of light, because photons. So it's charging up you're exposing your blood to this sun. You're charging up the blood, and when you see it come back in, when it comes out, it's like a dark blood, a red color, like wine
ruby
color,
red.
Almost like
and when it
purple.
comes, it's like a Ferrari red.
Yeah.
And it's basically oxygenated. Ozone is oxygen with an extra. It's an extra oxygen. It's
Yeah,
O3,
O3, yeah.
and it's almost like hydrogen peroxide. It just eats away any garbage in your blood. The point is, you do 3 of these. The reason why 3 is because it typically, depending on how much volume of blood you have, which can be 4 to 6, to be on the safe side, you do 3, 1 per week, because with 3, you're guaranteeing you filtered all your blood. So we don't know if you have this stuff growing inside of you, and if you do, you're catching it and you're getting it out of your
But the
body.
genetic program-
And this is how people can be running, and it's
And
happened to a
drop
lot of
dead.
athletes we saw, and they drop.
They drop.
Yeah.
And so so just so people, and we'll close with this. So the cool thing here is you got to think about when you do a peptide, you do a hormone, you do a supplement, that's a protein influencing a protein, right? But you go 4 layers deeper and it's DNA codes, sends the message. RNA then retranscribes that message, and that's where a lot of errors can happen in the transcription. There could be a lot of errors. And if there's errors in the transcription, which then influences the proteins, then the proteins then act. But if they're acting on a wrong code, they're acting on a wrong message, this is where you get replication of the wrong message over and over and over and over. Cancer happens, right? That kind of thing. So with this, so with the mRNA, the problem is that it coded DNA, which then recodes RNA and all the stuff. So now what we can do is we can actually reverse that order.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's crazy, brother.
Wow. Did not know we were going to end there, but that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Where can people find out more about you guys on the internet, more about Medical Health Institute, your work?
You can go to medicalhealthinstitute.com or just MHI as in Medical Health Institute, MHIlife.com. And check
call
out
us.
on our website. Also, I would recommend you, if you want to learn a lot of the things that we have learned. As we said, we're autodidacts. We've really put in the work to learn from the world's greatest researchers. So there's a tab on our website that says interviews, and you can see everybody in the game that we've interviewed and really have learned a lot of what we do, because it's not just about peptides. It's
And
not just
I'll
about
tell